All right, Rockfin. Woohoo!
Doobie-doobie-doo. 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 I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. 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 I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati.
Doobie-doobie-doo. Hello, guys. Happy Friday. Welcome all. I'm so pumped and excited for the weekend, and I hope that you are too. I want to give a quick shout out to everyone watching on Rockfin, YouTube, and Twitter. And welcome to Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you are new, I want to let you know that Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursday for the roundtable and Friday for the Sabby show. And you can catch me here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. I want to give quick shout outs to people in the chat. How are you all doing? Shout out to Marlon, says, greetings from London. Love your show, Sabby and RBN. Hello and welcome from London. We're going international, fun. We're going international. Shout out to Hannah G, says, hi, Sabby. Hello. Greetings, Gamer and Ganja for Life, says, hello. Shout out to Sebastian, who says, hey to Gamer. Gamer, I'm telling you, you're popular. Shout out to a kid, says, hi, Sabby and crew. Help everyone is okay. Shout out to LPA Film, who is a Sabby member, says, hell yeah. They be doobie failed. Off with every last of their co-opted heads. Oh boy, he's talking about that poll. Shout out to EMR. We need to find a way to hold Anna to this. We're going to talk about that. Shout out to Angela, says, hey, everyone, back for more Sabby. What's going on? Eric T. Red, who's a Sabby member, says, happy Friday, all lefty friends. Shout out to Joe. What is your favorite video game? I'm so glad you asked. After all these years, it's still Tetris. Tetris is still my favorite video game. Now watch. Someone's going to take that quote and say, see, I told you she's a Russian asset. Shout out to Notori with all the love. Greetings, Elizabeth. Howdy. Norwell here. Great interview with the Cuyahoga folks. Thank you so much. And what's up, Massachusetts? Greetings, Well Pilgrim says, hey, everybody. Shout out to Captain Obvious. Sup, peeps. Greetings, Dark Roast Lefty. Anna K is so violent. Wink. Greetings, Mr. Perfect is perfect. Is that Mr. Perfect, the wrestler? Oh my God, that is Mr. Perfect. He says, hi, Sabby. Always great to see you. Lawrence, who's a Sabby member, says doobie-doobie-doo. Shout out to John, who says, hi again, Sabs. Hello again. Greetings, Kenchi, says, happy Friday, love. Shout out to Troy Z in KC, who says, hello from workplace in KC. Shout out to Jonathan, who says, hey, Sabby and fam. Greetings, Matt, says, solidarity, Sabby and friends. What's going on, Ashira? The poll isn't going well. There are holdouts. What's going on, Gore, son of none? Sabby Dabby Doo, how are you? So glad for the extra serving of your insight. Thank you so much, Gore. Shout out to Tara, says, tuning in from Mexico City. We're international tonight. What's going on, Sweary Fairy, says, hey again, Sabby. Is it Fireball Friday yet? We'll see. Shout out to Anna, says, hi, Sabby. Greetings, Super Patriot, who is laughing. Shout out to Leroy Beresford, who's a Sabby member that says, comrades. Leroy, I don't know why I said your last name tonight. I never say your last name. I don't know what's going on. Shout out to the Traveler, says happy Friday. Greetings, Frosty Mug. Revolutionary Blackout Network is amazing. Thank you for all your great work. Thank you so much for your support. Mr. Perfect says yes. Is Mr. Perfect the wrestler? Oh, man. Shout out to Ganja Girl Lover. Hello, everyone. Gamer, is this your girlfriend? Gamer Ganja for life? Is Ganja Girl your girlfriend? Greetings. Shout out to Septian says, where was Anna's rage-fueled rant when Dems came out with the CARES Act? That's a good question. Shout out to I Hate Work 420. Happy Friday, everyone. Smoke them if you got them. Shout out to Andrew, and thanks for the super chat. I'm here to see Madam Vengeance go after Karen Kasparian. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Shout out to Troy Z and KC for becoming a Sabby member. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. Greetings, J7 Politics says all power to the people. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Oh, shout out to Kit from Hard Lens. TYT just put up a show. What's going on, Kit? All right, I want to give a quick shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you so much, guys. I really do appreciate all of your support. You can see all of their names are here. Thanks, guys, so much. If you want to be a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories: members, Sabby, Sabsters, Sabinators, and Ultimate. All of them are here. And I want to give a special shout out to new patrons: Jonathan Cooper, Donald C. Jefferson III, and Rose Isaac. Thank you all so much. You can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So, what are we talking about tonight, ladies and gentlemen? Let me go ahead and share my thumbnail. This should be an interesting show. Tonight, we're going to discuss Anna Kasparian done with Dems. Is she? We're going to talk about that fueled rant she had there. I'm also going to discuss Elizabeth Warren Theatrics. And we're also going to talk about Chris Smalls meets Joe Biden. And there are 2 different takes on that. So I'm going to talk about both sides of that. So let's go ahead and get started. If you haven't had a chance to do so, please complete that poll that is pinned to the live chat. That's important. I'm going to announce the results at the end of the show, and then we're going to go into the call-in segment of the show at 9:45, and that is the call-in discussion. Has Justice Democrats failed? So that should be a pretty interesting call. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the first story. If you are not aware, so Chris Smalls, he has organized the first Amazon union in the country. I'm pretty sure all of you know that. I've talked about it on here before. Recently, Chris Smalls was actually at the White House, and he was actually at a Senate hearing where he addressed Lindsey Graham. And I really like what he had to say here. Now, there are some people that are not too happy about this. I'm going to talk about both sides, but let's go ahead and get started with this discussion that he had here with Lindsey Graham, because I think Chris really nails it right here. So let me go ahead and put this up. Oh, I forgot to log into Type VNC. All right, here we go.
Thank you for having me. Well, first off, I want to address Mr. Graham. First off, you know, it sounded like you was talking about more of the companies and the businesses in your speech, but you forgot that the people are the ones who make these companies operate. And if we're not protected, and if the process for when we hold these companies accountable is not working for us, then that's the reason why we're here today. That's the reason.
That's right. So I do want to talk about that for a second. I'm glad that he said that. It is the people that make these companies operate. He's 100% correct. Without us, without the workers, the companies cannot operate. Now, there's arguments about this that can go into AI and can go into robotics, and where manufacturing is heading in this country. Yes, that is also a concern. But right now, The companies need people to work there. They need workers. So if you don't treat your employees fairly, they can leave and go somewhere else, or they can do what Chris Smalls is doing and what other companies have done, or employees at companies have done over the past year, and that is organize and try to start a union so that they can get the rights that they deserve. We shouldn't even have to do that in this country. I mean, come on. The United States has a lot of money. We should not have to do that. But I like the fact that Chris brought it right back to the workers, because the workers are important. They're the most important asset to the companies, even if the companies do not realize it, because without them, you cannot get the work done. So I'm glad that he brought that up.
Why I'm here to represent the workers who make these companies go. And I think that it's in your best interest to realize that it's not a left or right thing. It's not a Democrat or a Republican thing. It's a workers thing. It's a workers issue.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second as well. He said this is not a left or right thing. Thank you so much for saying that. A lot of times with issues in this country, politicians have a tendency to try to make it a left-right issue. Not just with unionization, but also with other issues as well. And I want to give you a more recent example. The George Floyd protest. Somehow, that became a left-right issue. That was not a left-right issue. That was a human rights issue. What happened to George Floyd should have never happened, whether you're on the left or the right. But what happened, you had the Democratic Party came in, and again, like I said, they get involved with these movements, they co-opt it, they water it down, they try to use it to get elected. They say they're going to do things to help the movement, and they don't. They cave. They just virtue signal. Democratic Party got a hold of it, ran with it. Next thing you know, they're kneeling in kente cloth. They're giving us a Juneteenth holiday. They never passed the George Floyd Policing Act, even though I will argue that that bill actually gave more money to the police. They didn't end qualified immunity. Nothing was done. They just gave us virtue signals like they usually do. But that's another example where they took an issue that was not a left-right issue, but they made it that way. And with this particular situation in reference to Amazon, I don't see how you can make this a left-right issue. This is about the workers getting the benefits they deserve, being treated fairly, being able to take a break. Like, people should be able to have a lunch break and not be worked to death. But then we do live in a capitalist society where those things are allowed because the people at the bottom are exploited. So I'm glad that he said that, because that needed to be said. And of course, Lindsey Graham would try to make this a left-right issue because that's what politicians do. They have to try to find a way to make it different. Now, some people have argued, and I'll get into this in just a second. Some people have argued that they felt like by Bernie Sanders and AOC coming to that rally, that they made it look like the Democratic Party now supports this. And some people felt like they didn't like that that wasn't a good thing, that now people on the right are going to point to this and say, oh, this is something the Democrats are doing instead of something that the workers are doing. I get both sides of that. I know Chris Smalls wants to get the message out to as many people as possible. So I get where both sides are coming from. But I think at the same time, the fact that Chris Smalls was at the Senate hearing and he addressed Lindsey Graham specifically and said this is not a left-right issue, I think that was phenomenal for him to say.
And we're the ones that are suffering in the corporations that you're talking about, in the businesses that you're talking about, in the warehouses that you're talking about. So that's the reason why I think I was invited today to speak on that behalf. And you should listen, because we do represent your constituents as well. So just take that into consideration, that the people are the ones that make these corporations go. It's not the other way around.
That's right, because there's Amazon warehouses in South Carolina as well. I know, I went to college in South Carolina, so I'm just telling you, like, that represents his constituents as well.
So as the current interim president of the Amazon Labor Union, who represent 8,300 workers in Staten Island, an independent worker-led union that won their election on April 1st. I'm gonna tell you this. We organized for over a year. And throughout the course of that year, Amazon spent millions of dollars, as you mentioned, Senator Sanders. Myself, including a few other organizers, was arrested outside for organizing, arrested for delivering food to their coworkers. I wanted to reiterate that as well. You know, the type of things that Amazon do, breaking the law, intimidation, these are real things that traumatize workers in this country.
Exactly. Would you feel comfortable going back to your place of employment if you knew that they were arresting people for trying to organize? No, I wouldn't feel comfortable going back there. A lot of intimidation. They put a lot of fear into you so that you won't try to get the rights that you deserve. This is how corrupt and conniving Amazon is. You have the largest company in the United States, or second largest. I forget if it's second or first, but either Walmart's first and they're second, whichever. Jeff Bezos is filthy rich, and they don't even want the people to have basic rights. I shouldn't have to hear about people having to pee in water bottles because they don't get a long enough break. That's Amazon. Let's go back in.
You know, thousands of workers across this country who are in the process of organizing, who have the desire to organize in the United States. We want to feel that we have protections. We want to feel that the government is allowing us to use our constitutional rights to organize. The notion that people in the united in this democracy will outmatch tyranny is the oldest American ideal. There's clearly defined legal process to do this, and workers like us have the rights protected by the First Amendment and the National Labor Relations Act. However, despite all of this, our victory in Staten Island was lauded as newsworthy and inspirational for the thousands of workers across the country, hundreds of thousands of workers. And even though we may have won, we did everything right, pressuring Amazon to recognize our victory and comply with our legal obligation to meet us at the bargaining table. But Amazon is refusing to do so. As you mentioned, they're going to stall. They filed 25 objections, and they got the NLRB to move the hearing to a whole nother location. To me, it just sounds like the corporations have the control, and they control whatever they want.
And they also control the politicians. They do control whatever they want. And you notice Chris Small said they did everything that they were supposed to do, and they did it the right way. They followed the process. They followed the correct steps. And Amazon is still trying to prevent them from having a union. That's the power of the corporation. That's why they're so powerful. The way that they can treat the workers, the way that they can treat the politicians, the hold that they can have over people. That's the corrupt corporations. Off topic, but I know this is another reason why we need to get money out of politics. Because look at how they control the politicians. The politicians are passing legislation that support corporate interests, at least in DC. Local level can be a little bit different, but in DC, it has to have some type of support for corporate interests. Otherwise, it doesn't get passed. It's a problem. Let's go back in.
They break the law, they get away with it. They know that already, that breaking the law during these election campaigns won't be resolved during the election campaigns. So they purposely continue to break the law. For example, we filed over 40 ULPs in 11 months. Most of them are, quite a few of them got merit for further action. Some of them even got injunctions. For example, Gerald Bryson was fired 2 years ago. Finally, 2 years later, over 2 years later, there's a 10J in motion for his reinstatement. Another prime example, Daquan Smith was fired by the company for organizing.
Yep.
He's still out of a job. He's living in a shelter right now. We raised money through GoFundMe.
All right. Did you guys just hear that? They fired one of their employees because he was trying to organize. Remember, they did that to Chris Smalls too. But he's living in a shelter now because he lost his job. See, they try to take everything from you, so that you have nothing, so that you will not fight. Notice Chris said they had a GoFundMe to raise money for him. This is where the mutual aid part comes in. This is why we continue to tell you guys, especially over at RBN, that mutual aid is so important. When people go on strike, they usually have some type of mutual aid system in place. I saw that with the coal miners that went on strike in Alabama. I saw that with the Kellogg strike when we had them come on RBN. You need some type of mutual aid set up. But the fact that this man is living in a shelter because he got fired, not because he tried to hurt someone at work, he tried to physically harm someone, not because he threatened to harm someone, but because he was just trying to organize. They fired him and he became homeless. This is what happens in a capitalist society. This is the problem with capitalism. The people at the top have all the money and they give the people at the bottom just enough to get by. And anytime the people at the bottom decide that they want more because they deserve more, the people at the top will do everything they can to try to stop them. They'll try to prevent them from organizing. And even if the workers are successful, then the people at the top will fire them, which should be illegal, by the way. That should be illegal. You shouldn't be able to fire someone because they're trying to organize. But this is what happens when you have certain states that have these iffy employment laws, these at-will employment states where they can fire you for no reason. I think that needs to go too. But that's a whole other conversation. Let's go back in.
These are just a few examples, including myself, who's been out of a job for the last 2 years. I want to just end off by saying this. We need to pass the PRO Act so that workers are protected and workers are encouraged to organize. And if that don't work, I'm going to let you know right now that on behalf of the Amazon Labor Union and the hundreds of thousands of workers across this country, that we will continue to organize.
He said, I'm going to let you know. He said, I'm going to let you know right now.
And once again, I want to remind you that this is not a left or right thing. This is a working class issue.
And he said it again, just in case Lindsey Graham forgot the beginning of that discussion. He's reminding him again, this is not a left-right issue. This is a workers' right issue.
And the workers at the bottom are the ones who make these corporations go. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Smalls, thank you very much.
All right, let's talk about it. So kudos to Chris Smalls. One thing I think is really cool about him is notice how he went to a Senate hearing. He didn't change his appearance. Some people, they get invited to these events and they're like, oh, let me put on a suit and a tie and let me slick my hair back and let me do. No, Chris showed up as himself. He showed up as himself with his jacket that says eat the rich, his baseball cap. He came as he was. And I appreciate that. Sometimes people, they start to get national attention and they start to change. Just being real. I've seen that happen with a couple of people. Now, he also got to meet President Biden, and some people were not happy about that. I want to go ahead and show that picture. All right. So he got to meet President Biden. And what you don't see in this picture is Kamala Harris is in this picture somewhere. But in this image, someone cut her out. That's okay. But I'm sorry. That's wrong, you guys. But yeah, so he got to meet Joe Biden. And this is from Follow the Money and Vote Accordingly. Said, this picture made my day. Eat the rich. You're incredible, Christian Smalls. And he tagged Joe Biden in this picture as well. So what do people have a problem with? So talking to people online, some people do not like the fact that Chris Smalls met Joe Biden. They feel like the Democrats are going to co-opt this movement. Now, I have seen the Democratic Party do this again, like I told you earlier in the show. They do have a tendency to do that, like take these issues, Black Lives Matter, the George Floyd like movement, protests, like they do have a way of getting their hand on things and trying to co-opt it. So I do understand where people are coming from. The people that mention that they're like, no, the Democrats are going to get a hold of this. Like, why is he talking to Joe Biden? Like, don't go talk to the politicians. But I also understand the other side of it, where we tell people to hold politicians accountable. And one way that you can hold them accountable is by putting the issue in their face. So if you get the opportunity to go meet Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Lindsey Graham, and bring this issue to their face, it also gets more national attention, by the way. I think you should do it. Now, that doesn't mean that Chris Smalls is friends with Joe Biden. That does not mean that Chris Smalls supports Joe Biden. I want to make sure I put that out very clear, because I saw some people on social media saying, oh, no, he's a Biden bro now. And I'm like, I don't think so. When I interviewed Chris Smalls, he was supporting Dianne Morales. She was running for mayor in New York City. Some things happened with her campaign. I can't get all into it tonight, but that's who he was supporting. Dianne Morales was the progressive candidate, and she was very much supported by the union workers in New York City. The labor movement really liked Dianne Morales. She was also an educator at one point. So anyway, they saw her as one of them, one of the working class people. So for the people, I think, who are upset about this, look, you got to put it in their face. Like, if they invite you, go there and give them all you got. And that's what Chris did. He told Lindsey Graham, this is not a left or right issue. Now, I don't know how many people have seen this hearing, but I'm guessing it's a lot of people. Now that message has gotten across to so many other people. So many other people sitting at home thinking to themselves, wait a minute, I may have been looking at this the wrong way. I hear Fox News talk about it one way. I hear, CNN talk about it another way. Maybe this is not a left-right issue after all. Maybe if I'm a worker, I should support it because I'm a worker. So when you get those opportunities, I say go ahead and take them and go meet those politicians. When they ask you to come meet them, go meet them and give them all you got. Let them know exactly how you feel. Let them know the problems. That's my take on it. But I do understand where people are coming from about the Democratic Party co-opting things. I want to give a shout out to Black in the Empire for the super chat. Thanks so much. Love you, Sabby. Poor man's tip. Support her work. Thank you so much. And thank you for the super chat as well, Zero Campbell. Maui is with you. Oh, aloha, Sabs. All right. Hawaii's in the house. Baba said, I'd take a pic with my eyes crossed. Oh, man. Oh, man. That being said, Joe Biden's full of it because he's going to sit here and take a picture with Chris Smalls, and he also shook his hand and pretend like he actually cares about unions. But Mr. David Soretta was kind enough to let us all know, big news, the Biden administration just gave Amazon a massive government contract as it was busting a union. The contract was ratified even as Biden is under mounting pressure to fulfill his promise to deny such contracts to union busters. So he sat there and he shook hands with Chris Smalls. He's smiling, pretending to do the damn thing. And at the same time, He gave another government contract to Amazon. So he gave Amazon more money after you just heard a speech from a former Amazon worker who just organized the first Amazon union, telling you about how corrupt the company was and how they treated the workers, and he gave them more money. He did this same concept with the police. You saw all those people protesting after George Floyd was murdered. And what did Joe Biden do? He sat there, met with the family, invited them to the White House, shook their hands. And at the same time, he gave the police more money. I don't agree with David Soretto on everything, but he's right here. Biden is wrong. So thank you, David, for pointing this out. So here's the article here. The president promised to halt federal contracts to union busters, but the deal was just re-awarded to Amazon while the company was crushing a union drive. Like $10 billion. The Biden administration has re-awarded a massive $10 billion federal contract to Amazon, even as the president is facing mounting pressure to fulfill his promise to halt such contracts to companies that refuse to remain neutral in union elections. So once again, Joe Biden lied. Surprise. Eric, can we put the link to this article in the chat? Do you see how they play you? You see how these politicians play us? Not saying he played Chris, but I'm saying, you see how he put on a smile and pretend like he's for something, and behind the scenes, he's giving money to prevent something like that from happening again? He's giving that same money more. Where did this, by the way, this $10 billion, where'd that money come from? Why are you giving Amazon money? Why are you even giving Amazon a contract? Can't give us anything, though. It's all theater. It's all theater. And speaking of theater, I want to go ahead and segue into our next story, because you're about to see more theater. Miss Elizabeth Warren. This woman really knows how to put on a show. Now, she is my senator here from Massachusetts. Unfortunately, it is what it is. She decided to stand with the protesters outside the Supreme Court after that document was leaked about Roe v. Wade possibly being overturned, or what they do want to do, overturn it. She really put on a show. Watch this. I have some things to say about this. Guys, it's all a game. Here we go.
I am angry because we have reached the culmination of what Republicans have been fighting for, angling for decades now, and we are going to fight back. I am angry because of who will pay the price for this. It will not be wealthy women. Wealthy women can get on an airplane. They can fly to another state. They can fly to another country. They can get the protection they need. This will fall on the poorest women in our country. This will fall on those who have been raped. This will fall on mothers who are already struggling to work 3 jobs to be able to support the children they have. Well, I am here because I am angry, and I am here because the United States Congress can change all of this. Angry, but committed. Understand this. Understand this. I have seen the world where abortion is illegal.
She said that as if like nobody else was alive during that time. I have seen the world.
And we are not going back. Not ever. No. So say it with me. We are not going back. We are not going back. Not ever.
Wow. This woman is a trip.
Not ever. Not ever. Not ever. Not ever. Not ever. Never.
Oh, the theatrics. Let's talk about some of the things that she said, okay? Let's chime in here.
I am angry because we have reached the culmination of what Republicans have been fighting for, angling for decades now, and we are going to fight back.
Okay, she said what Republicans have been fighting for. What about the Democrats that have been fighting for it? Is Elizabeth Warren going to call out Nancy Pelosi and Jim Clyburn for supporting Henry Cuellar, who is also anti-choice? Is she going to call them out? Didn't Elizabeth Warren support Tim Kaine? Tim Kaine was Hillary Clinton's running mate for her 2016 campaign. Tim Kaine is also anti-choice. I'm going to stop saying pro-life because we got a whole thing about that. But is she going to call out the Democrats too? Is Elizabeth Warren going to call out the fact that you have two Democrat politicians that went to Texas to go support Henry Cuellar when his running mate is pro-choice and he's not? Is she going to mention that? Is Elizabeth Warren going to mention the fact she talks about decades? Is she going to mention the fact that the Democratic Party could have codified Roe v. Wade into law back when Obama was president? Is Elizabeth Warren going to mention that? All of the people on Twitter and social media saying this is your fault if you didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. Really? Her running mate was anti-choice. You think Hillary Clinton was supposed to be the one to come in and save everybody with this issue? Why didn't Obama do it? Why didn't Obama do it? Remember, he had the House and the Senate for at least 2 years. Why wasn't it done then? The Democratic Party, they sat on this issue for years. They had plenty of time to get it done. They didn't want to. Because I want to remind you that in 2017, Nancy Pelosi said herself the Democratic Party would not allow abortion to be the primary issue. That came from Nancy Pelosi. Again, she was speaking for the Democratic Party like she always does. So if in 2017, the Democratic Party did not want abortion to be the primary issue, to be a priority, don't you find it somewhat suspect that now, all of a sudden, they do want it to be a priority? Funny, during a midterm year. I'm going to go to some of the comments, and then I'll go back into the video. Thank you so much for the super sticker, Steve R. Mafik says, if only she had power in a majority party. Delthea says, who is this we of which you speak, white woman? Oh, damn, Delthea. Thanks for the super chat, a kid. Sabby, you think Dems letting Roe v. Wade become an issue is a strategy to polarize and get voters out? How is it we can see this and others don't, e.g. Dem now? Yes, I do, 100%. I'm actually going to get into that in just a second. Leo Tolls Troy says, this is the most important election of our lifetime. Clown. Yeah, they're going to come with that. This is the issue they're going to run on so that they can win in the midterms. They're already starting. Guys, I already received emails. They're asking money. They're asking me for money to prevent the Republicans from taking back the House and the Senate. We got to do this right now. Otherwise, if they get the House and the Senate, then we'll lose Roe v. Wade. What the hell were you doing all these years? What were you doing all these years? Let's go back in. Here comes the drama queen.
I am angry because of who will pay the price for this. It will not be wealthy women. Wealthy women can get on an airplane. They can fly to another state. They can fly to another country. They can get the protection they need. This will fall on the poorest women in our country.
She's right about that. But I also want to let you know she's one of those wealthy women. She's one of those wealthy women. Granted, she's probably, not trying to go that route and have another kid. But even when it comes to her family members, they'll be fine. They'll be protected. They have money.
This will fall on those who have been raped. This will fall on mothers who are already struggling.
But if you knew all that, then why didn't you guys do anything all these years? You knew it would fall on all those people 8 years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Why didn't you do anything? You guys got a freaking majority. You can't do anything. You have the House, you have the Senate, and you have the White House, and you can't even pass a damn bill. Get out of here. And they want to blame Sinema and Manchin. They're the rotating villains. But I just told you there's other people who don't support this either that are Democrats. It's not just Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. And if they really felt that threatened about Joe Manchin, then why didn't they endorse Paula Jean Swearengin when she was running against him? Why did the Democratic Party endorse Joe Manchin? They knew how he was.
Work 3 jobs to be able to support the children they have. Well, I am here because I am angry, and I am here because the United States Congress can change all of this. Yes.
Now the rotating villain is the United States Congress. I want to remind you the Democratic Party is the majority in the House.
Angry but committed. Understand this. Understand this. I have seen the world where abortion is illegal.
I have walked across many earths. I know what's out there. I have seen the world.
And we are not going back.
Didn't we hear that same statement after Trump won? There was that women's march in DC, and that's what people were chanting. We are not going back, right? Okay. Joe Biden won. Notice they stopped that. There was no more we're not going back. So all last year when Joe Biden was in office, why weren't they putting pressure on Joe Biden to codify Roe v. Wade, which is something that Joe Biden ran on? Why weren't they putting pressure on Joe Biden? You know, this is all a game. And I want to show you how it's a game. Now, this is from Professor Zinkus. He's awesome. Definitely follow him on Twitter. Professor Zinkus said Nancy Pelosi and her lieutenants made a special trip to Texas to campaign for anti-abortion rights Henry Cuellar in his primary against his pro-choice opponent, Jessica Cisneros, one day after the SCOTUS draft overturning Roe v. Wade. Democrats are the enemies of abortion rights. Look at all their faces. They just look so smug. Look at them. Jim Clyburn's looking down. Can't even look up. Nancy Pelosi, you know, her jaw is all tight, like all taut. She always has that look on her face like all tight-lipped. Look at them. Shame. Shame on them. Now, this is not just about Nancy Pelosi and Jim Clyburn. They're all in on it, folks, including Amy Klobuchar. So here she goes. We must codify Roe v. Wade into law. Yes, Amy, we realize that. So I retweeted and said, you had plenty of time to do that. Plenty of time. You know, it's like, whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats, it doesn't matter. All they do is stall. Gritty is the Way has a video that I want you guys to see because he addresses, well, actually, this woman in the TikTok video addresses this more in a, she looks at the overall picture and she's going to make the connection between abortion rights and capitalism. So listen to this. Here we goes. I want to make sure I got the volume up on this picture, on this image. Okay. Listen to what this young woman says.
I think it's important that we bring back this conversation to eliminate any confusion that people may have. And that is first to understand that we live in a capitalist society. Second is to understand that the birth rate in America is the lowest it's ever been in American history. You have women who are choosing not to have kids. You have teen pregnancy at the lowest rate it's ever been in American history. Then you have the highest mortality rate, and it's 4 times more for Black women. Women are literally losing their lives trying to give birth.
So what happens, ladies and gentlemen, if people aren't having kids? What does that do to the population, and how does that affect capital? Listen to this.
And so what that means and what the fear is in American society and economy is who's going to replace the workforce. The biggest fear in the American economy is the shortage of labor. This is exactly why Texas was first with the anti-abortion ban. You need physical bodies in order to keep the capitalist wheel going. This affects Black and brown communities because you have to think about the pipeline into incarceration. Jail is a business. There's actual stocks for profit when it comes to jail. And you have to think about who's profiting off of this and the bodies that are filling the jail cells. Aside from the fact that we don't have mandatory maternity leave, we don't have free childcare. Inflation and the cost of living is the highest it's ever been in American history. There's no support for women who are actually choosing to have kids. A woman should always have a choice.
She brought it right back to labor and capitalism. If you don't have children, the population will start to decline. If the population continues to decline, you're not going to have as many people left to do the work, which means these companies, these corporations won't have many people to exploit in the future. Who's going to do the work at Amazon if people aren't having kids? Anybody? Who's going to do it? They have to keep capitalism going. This is part of the reason why they keep saying, oh, we care about the child and we care about the baby. They don't care about the child or the baby. If they cared about the child or the baby, they would make a society here so that those children would be taken care of once they are come into this world. They would make it so that everyone would have decent education in this country, which they don't. They would make it so that people can have paid parental leave so that they can take care of their children, but they don't. They would make it so that people were making a living income so that they could afford to take care of their family and they don't have to ask for government assistance, but they don't. And a lot of times, some of the same people that want to outlaw abortion, they also don't want you to get government assistance. So if you have a child that you can't afford to take care of, and you have no government assistance, what happens to you and your child? Now, this is where some people will come in and say, oh, just give the child up for adoption. You still have to be pregnant for 9 months and you have to pay for the medical expenses. Who's going to pay for that? They don't even want to give everybody universal health care. What? I think it's very important, and I try to do this as much as I can on this show, to remember how a lot of the issues that we complain about and that we're fighting for in this country, a lot of times is connected back to class and capital. Thank you for the super chat, Janice. They didn't want it to be a priority because they'd use it for fundraising and inspiring fear voting. Bingo. This is what they're going to do. They're coming with it. Thank you, Steve, for the super chat. Remember, RBG did not retire when she could have been safely replaced by Obama because she wanted to swear in the first woman president. Identity politics. Thank you for the super chat. Peter, version 1. I am so done with politics. I don't want to see what will happen if no one at all votes during the midterm and Maine. Let all of these con artists lose. This year and 2024, this would be the perfect time for someone to run as an independent, for someone to run third party, to give people another option. And this time, if you are going to vote, please take the other option. I really wish people would have done this back in 2016. So many people were told, we only have Hillary and Trump. That was not true. Jill Stein was on the ballot in 48 states in this country. And I sincerely wish that some of these independent channels like TYT, instead of telling people to vote for Hillary, I really wish they would have told their viewers to vote for Jill Stein instead. And people say, oh, then we would have got Trump. We got Trump anyway, boo. They told people to vote for Hillary and we still got Trump. We have to take votes away from the Democratic Party. They're not going to do anything for us. What's this video, Eric? I don't know what this is. I don't remember putting that there. Did I put that there? Sorry, guys. I put that there? I don't think I meant to do that. Nope, I didn't mean to do that. That should be the TYT one. We're about to go into the TYT video. I gave you the wrong one, Eric. I think that's what happened. Oh, no, that is the right one. Sorry, I saw Joe Biden and got confused. Welcome to Sabby Sabs Live. Anything can happen. Speaking of TYT, let's go into our next story. If you don't know by now, Anna Kasparian had a little bit of a meltdown, not just over Roe v. Wade, but also over the squad, obviously not giving their support for Nina Turner. She goes on to say a lot of the things that we've been telling you over the past year. Myself, my comrades at Revolutionary Blackout Network, Hardlands Media, Convo Couch. Actually, the Vanguard has been saying this too. Like, honestly, well, hell, mainly the smaller channels in Jimmy Dore. I'm just not going to lie. I'm being honest with you. We've been trying to tell people that this isn't working. Anna had a meltdown. She had some things to say. Let's go ahead and start right about here. And I'm going to chime in here and there because I have some things to say. This is hilarious to me.
So this is overturning Roe v. Wade. And this is the decision that is likely going to be the official decision having to do with the Mississippi abortion ban past 15 weeks. So they're using that state legislation as the opportunity to overturn Roe v. Wade, meaning that there is no longer going to be constitutional protections for women and their reproductive rights. So look, Cenk, take over because I'm having a hard time even communicating today.
Yeah.
We're gonna skip past Cenk. Okay, here we go. Right about here.
Some instances in some of those states, maybe if the woman's life is in danger, maybe they'll consider it. Maybe the pro-life people who couldn't be bothered to wear a freaking mask during the pandemic might make an exception for a woman if her life is in danger as a result of that pregnancy. Might. They're pro-life, by the way. Hundreds of thousands of Americans dead during the pandemic because of the intentional disinformation by the same right-wingers who are pretending to care about zygotes and fetuses today. Continue.
So I'm actually going to read a super chat.
Notice how Cenk is like so calm and he's like, well, I'm actually going to read a super chat right now, but let's go ahead and get into that. And I don't even know if that happened, but here we go.
That's who they are. What happened to those runoff Senate elections in Georgia where everyone turned out because those were the consequential races? We need to ensure that Democrats have a majority in the Senate. What happened? What happened? How are you going to convince people to come out and vote for you?
Uh-oh, here it goes. Okay, yeah, this is the part.
Might make an exception for a woman if her life is in danger as a result of that pregnancy. Might. They're pro-life, by the way. Hundreds of thousands of Americans dead during the pandemic because of the intentional disinformation by the same right-wingers who are pretending to care about zygotes and fetuses today. Continue.
So I'm actually going to read a super chat here because it's actually really powerful and directly is in line with what
So yeah, I'm actually going to read a super chat and yeah.
Feckless Democrats, losers, weak. That's who they are. What happened to those runoff Senate elections in Georgia where everyone turned out because those were the consequential races? We need to ensure that Democrats have a majority in the Senate. What happened? What happened? How are you going to convince people to come out and vote for you feckless losers? How?
Okay.
People are donating millions of dollars to Democrats right now. Don't waste your money.
Oh, you're wasting your money.
Don't waste your
so
money.
Badly.
What? What was that? What was that? Did she say don't donate? Did she take our line? The things we've been telling people for over the years, stop donating to them. You're wasting your money. Donate your money to mutual aid instead. Did she say that? Come again. Come again.
We need to ensure that Democrats have a majority in the Senate. What happened? What happened? How are you going to convince people to come out and vote for you feckless losers? How?
Okay.
People are donating millions of dollars to Democrats right now. Don't waste your money.
Oh, you're wasting
Don't
your money
waste your
so
money.
Badly. I'm going to explain why in a second.
See? But when we were saying that, and I mean those of us at RBN, when we were telling people to stop donating to Democrats, we were called grifters. We were called divisive. Nihilist is now this new term that people aren't using correctly. Look up the definition. Thank you very much. We were called secret right wingers. We've been called a part of a red-brown alliance. We've been told that we sold out. Sold out to what? I have a full-time job. Like, people think we do this full-time. We don't. I have a full-time job. So there's that. We were called all these names. So many people pointed at us and said, oh, they just look at us and like, oh, don't do any research about us. They just see a group of Black people and think, oh, what could they possibly know? Don't do any research. Don't see that some of us canvassed for Bernie Sanders and AOC. Don't see that I was an educator. Don't see that I have more education than some of the people on TYT. Don't do any research. So they thought, what the heck could they know?
Okay, hold on for that. Peter Hamby, who usually writes lighthearted poems, etc., wrote in today.
We don't really care about Peter. Let's go back to what okay, right here.
She would have to go through the entire pregnancy with that rapist child inside her body. Okay?
Yeah.
A 12-year-old. A 12-year-old.
Yeah, but they don't care about life. This is about controlling women.
100%.
Okay, so look, Republicans are monsters. That's a given, and for any thinking person. So oh, have I offended your feelings? You just took away the rights of women to control their own bodies. You're saying you love.
And some of the Democrats, Jink, don't forget some of the Democrats are on that same train. Make sure you don't leave them out. Anna's going to bring up more stuff here. Oh boy.
Democrats understands power and he wields it. He wields it. He wields it for evil. He does it to control. He does it to force his theocratic ideology onto all of us. That's what he uses it for. Whereas the Democrats, hey Nancy, how's your refrigerator doing? How's your luxury ice cream doing? Okay, how's all that going for you? No, the Democrats, listen, all of the bootlickers for the Democratic Party get so upset at me for telling the truth about how ineffective and pathetic Democratic lawmakers are. Go ahead and cry about it. Oh, but the real enemies are the Republicans. At least Republicans tell us exactly who they are.
What? She sounds like us right now. What have we been saying? At least with Republicans, you know exactly, they tell you right to your face what they're about. And people say, well, you say the Democrats are corporate, well, so are the Republicans. I don't see Republicans going around saying that they're not corporate. You have politicians in the Democratic Party saying that they ran grassroots only campaigns and then taking those donations and giving them to establishment Democrats. Hello. But no, we were mean. We were divisive. We were here to divide the left.
Yeah. They don't even hide their cards. They tell us exactly who they are and what they're planning on doing. They scream it from the mountaintops.
Yeah.
And what do Democrats do? Do they do anything to prepare for it, to strategize, to ensure that they mitigate the damage that's done by right-wingers in this country? No, they're too busy fundraising. Nancy Pelosi.
Didn't I say that? What did I tell you? They just want to fundraise. They're not really trying to win. They just want to fundraise. It's all about the money. Anna is late. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the party, Anna. Are people going to call Anna Kasparian a nihilist now too? No, because see, now that TYT has said this message, now it's okay for others to go ahead and give the nod as well. Humanist Report has come out criticizing them now. You see how this works?
He's got to fundraise. Chuck Schumer, he can't do away with the filibuster because that would mean that he'd have to apply a little bit of pressure on goons like Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. Ooh, can't do that, can't do that. No, the reason why I go after Democrats is because A, they deserve it, and B, they deceive us. They lie to us, and they tell us that they're gonna fight for us, and they do the exact opposite.
You don't say. And yet you were still telling people to vote for them. You don't say. Yes, they do deceive. They do lie. They use identity politics to get people on board. They thought that shit was going to work with Hillary Clinton and it didn't. But I bet you come November, they're still going to tell you to vote for them. That's why I want people to remember this moment. Because come November, I want to see if Anna Kasparian is still going to tell you to vote for them.
Fold immediately. Nancy Pelosi on the record said, we need strong Republicans. Oh, I bet you do, Nancy. I bet you do. Yeah. Without the strong Republicans, how would you fundraise? You pathetic corporate goon.
See, I didn't even go that far as to calling them names, but.
Okay, in fact, Nancy Pelosi has said in the past that Democrats should not focus on abortion because it hurts their electoral chances.
Which is exactly what I was referring to. That was 2017. She said that. I still think it's funny how Jink is so calm about this. He's just mad chill. Anna, not so much. Let me get back to her. Here we go.
Commissions and their study groups that do nothing. Just like when Biden lied to us and said to us, I don't know if the federal government can unilaterally, cancel all student loans. I don't know if the executive branch can do it. You know, you freaking liar. I need a commission to study to see whether, you don't know what your own job is? You don't know what your job title entitles you to? You don't know? Why are you president? Why?
That's funny. When I said that statement, people told me I didn't know what I was talking about.
Why did you nominate an education secretary? What's the whole point? Yeah. No, he knows, they know. But Cenk, the reason why they blame progressives for the fact that they're massive losers, let's keep it real, is because what's the alternative? Acknowledging that they're corrupt, acknowledging that they're puppets to their corporate donors and their corporate masters. Yeah. They're not gonna admit that. So let's just find another scapegoat. Let's go ahead and blame progressives. Yeah, let's do that.
And the reason that another reason they do it is because it works. Why does it work? Because
progressives are still in the Democratic Party. They're still in the same corrupt party that you were just referring to. And the party controls what happens. That's why the squad didn't endorse Nina Turner, because like she said, they were threatened. Someone reached out to me recently and told me that Cori Bush's office is told they're not allowed to talk. Isn't that something? Let's carry on with Miss Anna here. Oh, this is a trip. This is a shining moment. Uh-oh, what did I do? Okay.
With them, I'm completely done with them. We need to find a way to circumvent the government and get people what they need, okay? We need to organize, we need to find a way. We'll talk about it a little later in the show.
Wait a minute.
Is surrender.
They have no plan. They never have, they never will. All they care about is fundraising. I'm done with Congress. I'm done with them. I'm completely done with them. We need to find a way to circumvent the government and get people what they need, okay? We need to organize, we need to find a way.
We need to organize? Guys, last year, actually, past 2 years, you want to talk about organizing. Okay, we organized the March for Medicare for All. Anna Kasparian smeared those marches. There were also organizing for George Floyd protests all across this country. Anna Kasparian and TYT changed their stance on defunding the police. 1 minute they said they were for it. Then when it wasn't popular anymore, they decided not to be for it. They tried to call it something else. There was also Force the Vote, which Anna Kasparian was heavily against. So people have been organizing all around you, Anna. You chose not to be a part of it. That's the problem. You chose not only to not be a part of it, but you chose to smear it. People have been organizing. But no, when she criticized Force the Vote, that was us trying to hold those politicians to their word. That was us trying to make sure that they would be held accountable. She didn't want us to make sure that they would be held accountable. She didn't agree with it.
We'll talk about it a little later in the show. If we're gonna sit around and wait for our elected lawmakers to protect us from these religious zealots and these right-wing authoritarians, man, we have another thing coming. How many times do we need to be disappointed by?
What have we been telling you guys? What have we been telling you? See, now what's really kind of pissed about this, or pisses me off a little bit, is now because this was said on TYT, now it's going to look like they're the first ones that came up with this. When you have like the smaller channels, we've been saying this for over a year, you need to organize on the outside. They're not going to do anything for you in DC that doesn't support corporate interest. This is what we've been telling people. Most of the power is going to have to come on the outside. If you still want to do electoral politics, it needs to be like an 80-20 rule where 80% is direct action, mutual aid, 20% electoral politics. And even then, I'm talking about focusing more so on the local level where you can actually implement some type of change through electoral politics. When it comes to the federal level, if you're going to vote, you need to vote third party or independent. Anybody going into these two parties, even if they don't plan to fail you, the party will make it so that they will. I just told you, Cori Bush's office, they're not allowed to talk.
I'm done with them. And personally, I don't speak for everyone in this network. I want to be clear. I'm speaking for myself. I'm done with them completely. The Democratic Party, every single one of them, that includes the squad, I don't care anymore. They have not delivered. They have not delivered. I'm done. Okay. It's time to organize, create organizations that get women and get people in this country what they need. People.
She's done. She said that includes the squad. Notice she made sure she said, I don't speak for everyone at this network. I'm just speaking for myself. She made sure she added that in, though, especially if she want to keep her job. Because let's be real, come November, she says she's done with them. When Jink and everyone else on this network is going to tell you to vote for them, is Anna Kasparian going to come on TYT and say, don't donate to them, don't vote for them? I don't think so. Because if she does, they're not going to let her keep her job. That goes against the message and the brand that that network has. Take it with a grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt. But you can hear it again here. Here we goes.
And get people what they need, okay? We need to organize. We need to find a way. We'll talk about it a little later in the show. If we're gonna sit around and wait for our elected lawmakers to protect us from these religious zealots and these right-wing authoritarians, man, we have another thing coming. How many times do we need to be disappointed by them? I'm done with them. And personally, I don't speak for everyone in this network. I want to be clear. I'm speaking for myself. I'm done with them completely. The Democratic Party, every single one of them, that includes the squad, I don't care anymore. They have not delivered. They have not delivered. I'm done. Okay. It's time to organize, create organizations that get women and get people in this country what they need. People who are willing to pick up the slack for these disgusting, feckless, corrupt politicians.
See, I didn't even go that far to call the people names, but you know, whatever floats your boat. But it is interesting to me that she's just like, that's it. That includes the squad. They have not delivered. That's what we've been trying to tell you, TYT. That's what we've been trying to tell you. They're not doing anything. They're not passing any damn bills. They're not pushing back on establishment Democrats. They freaking abandoned Nina Turner, left her out there to dry after Nina has backed and supported every single one of them. What is the point? Why are you still supporting them? But when we said it, we were bad people. We were divisive people.
That's what we need to focus on.
So when I ran for Congress, the LA Times said that I would be too rude to Republicans.
Good, we're gonna be ruder.
And they endorsed my soft corporate Democratic opponent. Okay, and what has she done to fight? Well, actually, she's not in Congress because she didn't bother fighting the Republican in the race. They never fight the Republicans, ever, ever, ever. By the way, when I was in the race, though, they fought me like demons, right?
Okay, Jink, I don't really care. All right, here we go.
These terrorists, and that's pretty much it. Those are your options. There is a third option, and it's to circumvent all of it and figure out what the loopholes are to get people what they need. That's it. What are we gonna do, Cenk? What other option do we have at this point?
Yeah, so obviously, I think that progressives can win electorally.
Notice Jink comes in at the end to say, wait a minute, I just want to make sure I add my piece in. Obviously, I think that progressives can win. Jink makes sure he come in to save his ass. Look at this. Here we go.
For you, doesn't care about you, and is only interested in their own ego and power. Shame on you for covering for them and doing propaganda for them. You disgust me with your alternative facts and your goddamn lies.
In this political system, you have very limited options. You could either support the American Taliban, or you could support the party that capitulates to these terrorists, And that's pretty much it. Those are your options. There is a third option, and it's to circumvent all of it and figure out what the loopholes are to get people what they need. That's it.
We have already figured that out. If you didn't block so many of us, we could have already had this conversation. There are other options. You can vote third party, vote independent. You need to organize, need to do direct action. When people are organizing and we're advertising these things on social media, especially with the marches for Medicare for All, every single one of those independent left media hosts were reached out to. I know, I was in the meetings. I was a part of that. I was at the march here for Medicare for All in Boston. Every single one of them were contacted, and most of them didn't want anything to do with it. The same people that told you we need to fight with Bernie Sanders so we can get Medicare for all. All of a sudden, when it was not an election year, they didn't want anything to do with it. They didn't want to go to no protests. They didn't even want to talk about it on their show. Most of them did not cover it. And if TYT would have covered those marches, we could have had hundreds and thousands of people, but they didn't. We're only so big. So I can only, I'm only reaching a certain amount of people. They have millions of subscribers. And what they decided to do instead, Anna Kasparian got her little corny ass on Twitter and decided to smear the marches. This woman ain't real.
What are we going to do, Cenk? What other option do we have at this point?
Yeah. So obviously, I think that progressives can win electorally. But I'll tell you what, when they win, they better do something. If you go in there and your whole thing is, let me bow my head to the corporate Democrats, then everyone's right. What the hell did we elect you for? I mean, here's Nina Turner, co-chair of Bernie Sanders' campaign, one of the strongest progressives in the country. In the last 24 hours, AOC endorsed her and no one else did. You're not gonna stick together? You all ran against incumbents, or almost all of you did. You wouldn't have endorsed yourself?
Embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
Super embarrassing.
And it's embarrassing for TYT too. It's embarrassing for a lot of these shows that constantly made excuses for the squad when we were trying to tell you what was going on, what they were doing. Afeni was right in DC. She got a chance to talk to AOC and Cori Bush, and Afeni came back on my show and explained to everyone that AOC said, you guys are going to have to do the organizing on the outside because they're not going to do anything for you in here. That came from AOC.
So you were taught compliance and you obeyed?
Good job.
And don't get me wrong, I know there are consequences. I know how vicious the corporate Democrats are to progressives. They'll lie down like doormats, like guys like Hakeem Jeffries, happy to be a doormat for the Republicans, to have them walk all over him. He's like, oh, do I get any money though? Oh, yes, my corporate donors, my beloved. But when it comes to progressives, they'll rip your face off. I know that, okay? That's why it requires courage to fight back. If you don't want to do that, then yes, we wasted our time. So I think the jury's still out as long as Nina Turner's still around, but we're gonna find out in about a couple hours. And if she isn't, I too might give up on electoral politics, at least in Congress, because everyone that goes in there immediately believes the lies of the establishment Democrats, that they have to surrender to Republicans and they have to surrender to Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden and they have to surrender to the donors. Well, if everyone who goes in there believes that, then there's no point in sending them. Washington.
Exactly. What are we sending them there for? I think that's the end. Is that the end? Okay, so Miss Anna decided to come back and try to say that is not what she said. Listen to this. That's why I said don't get excited. This is all for show. This woman is fake. Listen.
Welcome to TYT. I'm your host, Anna Kasparian. And conservatives calling me out on social media saying Anna Kasparian had a meltdown. And they shared video from the show yesterday where I was specifically calling out the Republican Party in forcing women to bring to term fetuses.
Notice she said conservatives were sharing a video. Everybody was sharing that video. Conservatives, leftists, liberals, Notice how she's leaving that part out. She's lying. She's telling their audience that it was the conservatives that were doing it. It was not just the conservatives. That's on purpose. She goes on to say, oh, I was criticizing Republicans. Yes, she was, but she also criticized the Democratic Party and the squad, and she does not mention that here.
Without any say over their own bodies, while also, by the way, fighting aggressively against any type of social spending program, any type of regulation that would make childcare affordable for people, that would create, a social safety net so parents could be parents and so children could be raised in a happy, healthy environment, if that's genuinely what they want. They shared that rant acting as if my meltdown was totally unwarranted. And I'm so happy they're doing it, because please let them know. Let them know, folks. Let Americans know what the right wing really stands for in this country. They want to force you to bring to term fetuses. They want you to have babies that they will then abandon the second that baby is born, the second it's born. No paid family leave, no affordable child care, nothing to help you with your medical bills, your maternity bills, if you don't happen to have health care.
Someone definitely spoke to her, because you notice she's leaving the Democrat part out and she's leaving the squad part out.
Because, the one thing that Republicans never want to talk about, and I wish Democrats would force them to talk about, but it turns out Democrats don't really talk, they don't want to talk about these issues either, is the fact that they want to screw you, that they want to empower the corporate elite in this country to continue to rob you. That's the Republican Party. Keep sharing my video. You're doing me a favor. Love every minute of it.
The Democrats are elites too. They're trying to rob you too. See how she changed her tone? See how she changed that? Who spoke to her? That's very different from the video that you saw before. Didn't mention anything about the squad in that video. This is a joke. This is a joke. Like I said, guys, mark my words. Don't be surprised if she comes back and tries to say, vote for them come November. But since TYT put the message out, all their comrades felt, oh, now I can speak out against it too. Here is the Humanist Report. Progressive members of Congress abandon Nina Turner, can't help but feel like the progressive movement is dead. Where you been, Mike? Mike, where you been? We've been trying to tell you for a year. The energy is gone. The energy is not there. We tried to tell you. You blocked people. Nick tried to tell you. Bernie Sanders was not going to do anything. That Bernie Sanders was defending Joe Biden. Mike blocked him. David Dole, he's another one. Same thing. Nick tried to explain to David Dole, listen, the progressives aren't doing anything. David Dole blocked him. It's hilarious to me. It's hilarious to me. It's very telling. And I hope this is really a wake-up call for a lot of people. Like I said, let's remember this moment. Let's put a timestamp on that. And let's come back in November and let's see if they're true to their word. Because I can always pull this back up. Right? All right. Thank you so much for the super chat, AJF. I think Democrats will only really change if they see themselves losing where they are expected to win. Imagine New York or California turn red, LOL. Did you know that upstate New York, I'll have to pull up the map sometime. Some parts of upstate New York are actually red. I think it's New York City that puts them over to the blue side. KDK7, thank you for the super chat. TYT is so phony. This is all for show. A sad grab at getting some of their viewers back. This is transparent and hilarious. Thank you so much for the super chat. And thank you for the super chat, Oz. Debate Shahid why electoralism doesn't work. Love Sabs. Thank you so much, Oz. I actually like Shahid, though. Thank you for this super chat as well, AJF. I begrudgingly settled on the notion things will get worse before it gets better. We'll need to strive mostly outside of electoral politics. I agree. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for the super chat, Colin. If Anna is serious about this, she will leave TYT. Bingo. Bingo. Leo says, Sabby having an IPA tonight? Yes. How did you know that? It is called Save the Robots. It's an East Coast IBA. See the little robot? Mr. Roboto. Mr. Little Robot Guy. It's by Radiant Pig Craft Beers. So that's the name of the brewery. It's Friday night. Got to do it. Got to do it. I hope I got to all these. Thank you so much for the super chat, TSW. Been meaning to donate to you for a while, but broke. I am watching you a lot more, Sabby, and I like what you are doing. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Cool Blue said, come September, October, Anna will be back to saying vote blue no matter who. Thank you for the super chat, Andrew. Anna might stay with this mentality and get fired. I think she knows better. Thank you for the super chat, Delthea Simmons. The Dems have been worthless for decades, and Anna said keep voting for Dems. Now that she's lost something she thinks is important, now the Dems are feckless. Take all that seat, Anna. You're done. Thanks for the super chat, Peter version 1. She wanted to say donate to TYT instead. Ouch. Thanks for the super chat, SFT. KC Tenants Union is tomorrow, May 7th. Everyone invited, 11:30 a.m. Check Twitter at KC Tenants. Yeah, follow them, guys. Like Nick talks about them a lot. KC Tenants is doing really cool things in Kansas City area. West Coast said Jink will not abandon access journalism. It's how he got rich and how his nephew got rich. LOL. Thank you for the super chat, Colin. I wonder if Anna has fertility issues. She took this issue personally for an outburst like that. I don't know, Colin. Thanks for the super chat. That's interesting. Okay. The call-in portion of the show will start at 9:45. But I want to go ahead and check that poll. So let's see how we're doing here. I hope everyone had a chance to put their results in for the poll. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up the results. To put their whoops, that was weird. I'm a hustler, baby. I just want you to know. Oh, I got to log into my account. Let's see. This should be an interesting call-in discussion tonight. I'm just saying. I just want you to know it ain't where I've been, where I'm about to go. I just want to love ya. Okay, let me go ahead and end the poll. And I'll take a screenshot. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Okay, I'll take a screenshot of it and I'll put it up here for you guys. I'm a hustler, baby. I just want you to know it's not where I am, where I'm about to go. I just want to love you. Okay, share my screen. Why does it look like that on there? I don't know why it looks like that. Oh, there it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's the result. Oh, you won't let me go and zoom in anymore. Oh, well, anyway, you guys can see it. All right, tonight's poll is, has Justice Democrats failed? I don't know why I said it like that. Has Justice Democrats failed? Whew. 96% of you said yes. 3% said no. Poll complete, 603 votes. Yikes. Woof. All right, that's Screaming Paul said can't if you didn't try. Oh man, oh man. That's actually the topic for the call-in show tonight. I'm going to go ahead and put the call-in link in the chat. Well, I guess not yet, actually. I'll do it in just a second. Eric, I'm going to take like a little break. If you can hop on for a couple minutes and do this last, I think a super chat just came through from AJF. It's at the bottom. And the Rockfin. And I'll be right back. But I do need to put this link in the chat at some point. I'll figure it out. I'll be back, guys.
All right. Let's see. Let me change this layout a little bit here. I'll do that. All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Yeah, let me get this one right out. Thanks for the super chat, AJF Milan. The squad should really just be called the 4+, since according to Cory Bush, they are just individuals with constituencies. Indeed. Well said there. Let's see. We just had another thing come in. All right. From Vidal Gomez. Thank you for the $5. I don't know. Did we call that a super sticker? We call it something. Everybody, I trust, is having a good Friday. You know what I'm going to do here is bring up some Rockfin, because we've been, let me clear that off. We've been remiss with our Rockfin tonight. So let's see, put that there. All right. Thank you, Roger Meadows, for the tip comment on Rockfin. Let me start that. Sabs, think about this, because I used to think it was just big money. When we talk about big money in politics financing our elections, do we really have a problem with big money, or do we have a problem as to where the big money is coming from? Suppose we instead got rid of corporations and redistribute the financial might of Wall Street through a network of public and postal banks throughout the country, diminishing Wall Street's power. Then we were to replace corporations with worker co-ops, which is business power democratized. Where the mantra I'm saying is trying to push is support worker co-ops. You won't get rich, but you damn sure won't be broke. Has a humanitarian, public interest, and environmentally friendly work model design baked into it by design, and allowing them to concentrate on other things besides making money as their sole purpose. What if they were the big money financing our elections instead? Would you really have a problem with big money in elections? I think no. Instead, I think it's because the big money doesn't come from us and doesn't represent us is the actual problem. What say you? Yeah, I'm sorry, Roger, that Sabby went out of break, but I'll say that it sounds pretty good in terms of, the democratization, and of course, the whole worker co-op concept is a really strong idea. It's really what we should be looking to do with larger companies, and especially with utilities and things like that. There's a lot of power there, and just the more real democracy, the better. Is what I say. Whichever way we can make it happen. Also, from Roger Meadows, thank you. Always remember, it's easy for Democrat politicians like mine, U.S. Senator Gillibrand from New York, and New York State senators serving in Albany, to be so passionate about Roe v. Wade because they do not have to pay a corporate Wall Street. And New York State government case union donor price for it, like they were if they were in a Medicare for all in the New York Health Act. If they cared about women's health, then pass them both. Let's make a promise every time they say protecting women's pro-choice rights and health, we hit them with the New York Health Act, whole Washington, and Medicare for all. Yeah, definitely. And from Roger, a worker co-op would never vote to automate their jobs without them creating a new position for the human being. First is how we combat automation. A multi-staker cooperative includes more than one membership co-op. For example, workers, consumers, users, or community members in the governance and often ownership of a firm. In other words, a bunch of co-ops working together, establishing their own supply chains. And yeah, that's something I've heard Richard Wolff talk about, in that the when you get into the worker co-op models and the democratization models, you can be talking about more than even just the employees. I mean, you can also be looking at the members and the customers as part of the whole set of people who get a say. You can be talking about the community even itself having a say in these things. All right, thanks for that one, Roger. More from Mr. Roger Meadows on Rockfin. Cube met with Trump and people had a problem with it. Kamala said, "We'll meet after we win." I hope Cube gets that call, but don't hold your breath. Wait, Joe did what? OAP time for Smalls to meet with a Republican to show they ain't playing. Just do a little scrolling. If the GOP won't step up to secure, strengthen, and finance a robust social safety net while the Dems chase their tail, then we are going to have to step up ourselves in the states, starting with ballot initiatives. Public banks is the perfect solution. They create and grow surpluses in the economy. It's in charge without having to create or raise existing taxes. And thanks for that, Roger. Also from Roger, we have, if Democrats still lose federally this year, that might snap them out of their convincement that running on abortion is as galvanizing today as it was in the 70s, when in fact it is not improving working people's economic security. Also, before I stopped watching TYT Jank, read my chat about California as a ballot initiative state. Get it done there. He said, I hear you, blah, blah, blah. Okay, buddy, how's that going for you? Let's see. I think we got 2 more in here. Jank, isn't TYT a corporation? That union bus, what are you talking about? This guy looks like Bam Bam Bigelow with hair. Anna, your other option is ballot initiatives. And one more down here. Thanks, Roger. Yes, traditionally, upstate New York is red, but the populist D's made inroads in the last election. Most of them are co-sponsors of the New York Healthcare Act, which put us over the top to be able to pass, but Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins refuses to bring it up for a vote. But like I said last time, they are not enemy of progressive policies. It's the Long Island suburban Dems. So I think he's saying it's really not even the Republicans in New York that you have to worry about that are really holding things up, but it's really the Democrats, which I can't really argue with. One other thing I'd note here is it's actually not easy reading reading other people's comments. So kudos to all those who do it well. They'll try. We had a couple more super chats come in here. All right, from Andrew Matthews, thank you for the $3.33 in super chat money. This was a good Vengeance Field show. You got it. From Green November, thanks for that super chat. Shout out to Ivory Hecker Veritas, whistleblower and modern Renaissance man. Please check out their YouTube channel. Thanks for that. And welcome Dan Quayle as new YouTube member. All right, Sabby, I think I got caught up on things. We got lots of good stuff from Roger. Let's change this layout, do that. And you're muted, Sabs. I was wondering why you're so quiet.
Oh.
Oh, hello.
All right, yeah, we're about to start the call-in portion of the show. So I put that in the chat. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Is it gonna let me pin it? Yeah. So I just pinned the link to the call-in room for those of you who want to call in. I don't know why I said it like that. I'm sorry. Eric, give me the green light when I can go ahead and hit go live.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Because you have to kind of go live before we can get my side of the app in there.
All right. And I'll
There it
do my
is.
invite. All right. So I just invited you. By the way, guys, if you're not subscribed to me on Callin, subscribe to the Sabby Sabs show. Sabby Sabs. Actually, it's just Sabby Sabs, not Sabby Sabs show. Okay, and I need to put you as a invite to speak.
Yeah, there we go.
Don't.
Unmute that one. Come on. Testing. Testing. All right. I think we're getting some audio in there.
I want to call in, but I don't know how. Hugo, you just click on the link. Click on the link that's pinned to the chat, and you need to have the call-in app installed on your phone. So I just put the link in again, but it's pinned at the top of the live chat. Doobie-doobie-doo. I should share this. Share on Twitter. Share on Twitter. Why did that sound like an old gospel song? I don't know what happened there.
The Twitter gospel of Twitter. All right, I think we are good to go.
Why did Robert Reich pop up on my Twitter timeline? That's weird.
Check out this comment. Saw you on Jimmy Dore. I'm a 66-year-old white guy and appreciate your bullshit detectors and megaphone. There you go.
Oh, thank you, Dale Quayle. And thanks for becoming a member. I see you just became a Sabby member. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. All right.
All right, I think we are good to go.
Okay, cool.
I'll let you start it up.
All right, guys, give me a thumbs up. Oh, what'd you say?
Other thing we got to do is add it to the stream. There we go.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
All right. Carry on.
All right. Okay, guys, can you hear me on Callin? Give me a thumbs up if you can. All right, they can hear me on Callin. Do you hear any kind of echo? I'm gonna check the chat. Apparently not. Nobody's saying there is an echo. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. All right, welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast on Callin. This is episode 10. Has Justice Democrats failed? The squad's refusal to push back on establishment Democrats and their recent abandonment of Nina Turner has some asking, has Justice Democrats failed? And I'm going to go ahead and take the first caller, which is Oz. You're on the mic. You just got to hit unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can. Oz, welcome.
Hey, how you doing, Sabby? Hi, Eric. What's going on, man? Justice Democrats have failed, absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely, and I'm going to tell you why, and it ties into my super chat that I gave you a little bit while ago.
Oh, hold on one second, Oz.
Huh?
Hey, Oz, can you turn up your volume just a little bit?
Let me see what I can do here.
Okay, it's louder now.
Is it louder now?
Yeah.
How's that? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. The Justice Democrats failed because they didn't challenge themselves. The Justice Democrats didn't ask the big question like, why is electoralism not going to work? That's my point. If electoralism isn't going to work, if rigged elections are the new status quo, then how do they expect Justice Democrats to be successful? Can you answer that for me? What's your opinion? And I like Shahid too, but I'm going to like him until he starts really coming after us and showing his stripes.
Well, why do you think they're not challenging the status quo? Like, I have my opinion. I think it's because of, the money. I think the party controls what's said. I think they control like what happens, but the party is controlled by Wall Street.
There's no disagreement there. It's all controlled by Wall Street, right?
Right. And so why do you think, because if we remember in the beginning when AOC first went in, remember she held that protest or that sit-in right outside of Nancy Pelosi's office? I can imagine she was spoken to like after that. And then, that behavior changed. But to see them just even, abandon Nina Turner the way that they did, how do you abandon the person who's been defending you all this time, who has promoted every single one of them, who was a very important part of Bernie Sanders' campaign? How can you do that and just be okay with it? Or maybe they're not okay with it, but I don't understand. And I know Nina Turner said that they were threatened, but if you can't be yourself, if you can't speak your truth, and you can't go in there and do what you were supposed to go in there and do, then why are you still there?
Exactly, Sabby. You nailed it. Why are you even in there? And I think the bigger question is why did the squad stab Nina Turner in the back? And if it's not going to work, see, all of these representatives and all of these want to be, change it from the inside politicians or wannabe politicians. They keep forgetting it's all controlled, and the power and the money behind the DNC and the duopoly, for that matter, is never going to let it happen. And if you're going to sell out, you're going to get told how to do it. That's just where it's at. And they control everything. They bent the knee. AOC bent the knee to Nancy Pelosi. She got the call the next day, and I think we were all saying that she better never do that again, or she's not going to go anywhere in the party. It wasn't that she wasn't just going to get, leadership roles on committees. It was she was going to be out in the next cycle. They were going to do the same thing that AOC did to that Cromwell up in New York. What's his name? You know what I'm talking about. But it's all about being sold out. I don't want to keep you any longer. I want other people to talk. But just if you could give me a response to that, I'll jump off. Okay?
Yes. What was the question? Sorry, I was reading something.
No, it's okay. It's okay. The bigger question is why do these people keep getting stabbed in the back and continue to support the Democratic Party?
I have that question as well. I'm not sure why, Nina Turner is still defending the squad. And she said, well, when she spoke with Jordan, she said, well, they're my friends, and I know that some of them were threatened. Okay, I get that, but why are you still trying to? I don't understand why people, if you're left after everything we've seen and you're progressive, I don't understand why people still want to join this party.
They shouldn't. They should be using their skill sets to organize and get out in the street, just like Shahid Buttar. Smart guy, really knows. He needs to take it to the streets. We all need to take it to the streets. You and I know it. Eric knows it. Everybody in the chat knows it. Because big things don't change from what's inside a duopoly that's corrupt and rotten to the core, sponsored by money. We all know this. We all know it. We all agree. I'm going to jump off so you can get the next call. Thanks, Abby. I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for calling in, Oz. Thank you for the super chat, Jessica. Love you, Sabs. Love you, Eric. Love all your subscribers and members. You bring voices to the voiceless. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. All right. I'm going to go ahead and take the next caller, which is Reef. You're on the mic. You just got to unmute.
What's up, Sabby?
Hello.
Hi. Oh, so you're wondering if Justice Democrats are a failure?
Yes.
I mean, I feel like the answer is unequivocally absolutely. Like, I mean, what have they done? You know? Other than get some, like, politicians elected, which have also done nothing. Justice Democrats have done nothing. You know? In my opinion. You know? If anything, they've given us crumbs and then told us to be happy for those crumbs. So, while at the same time defending the same, like, powerful elites that, you know, take away the crumbs we have. You know? What's your thoughts, Sam?
It's a good point because I remember when Justice Democrats was advertised and it was described as it was going to be this hostile takeover of the Democratic Party.
Right.
And I haven't seen any hostility. Even
No.
that protest at the Capitol, they had to get permission from Congress to do that protest about the eviction moratorium. They had to get permission to do that. When
Right.
you have
Well, it's
someone
like
I was
what
going to
Oz
say,
was talking about. Go ahead.
well, when you have someone like Cori Bush that came from activism, I mean, she came from the Ferguson riots. It just didn't make any sense to me. Like, that's not how you organize. Like, you shouldn't have to go get permission from your overseer to organize people and protest. And then they didn't announce it. They didn't promote it. So there weren't many people there to begin with anyway. Why didn't they even promote it? Were they told not to really cause a ruckus? It's just, I feel like
it's one of those things where I feel like they do just enough, right, to get those people who still support them, just to think that they're good people still, you know. So, you know, and those are really performative actions anyway, which we should be outperforming them if they're going to do that. But, you know, it doesn't feel like they're wanting to play outside the system in any way, that they're wanting to put, you know, that they wanted to bring the ruckus to begin with, you know, and this is on top of we're still not sure necessarily the validity of you know, their, like, if they believed in the ideals that they said when they were asking for votes, you know.
Right.
So, like, there's some weird stuff with AOC specifically. If you go look in her history about, you know, that was definitely kept under wraps during those, you know, election cycles. And what shows was she on when she was trying to get elected? Sabs, do you remember?
The first one that had her on was Jimmy Dore.
Oh, Jimmy Dore. Look at that. Yep. Right? Has she been on any of those progressive shows since then?
No.
So why is she unwilling to talk to the audience that voted for her? Like, it's because those things that she, like, those carrots she put in front of us weren't really available, you know? So, I mean, I don't know. I don't see them doing anything in the future or now that can enact actual change, right? And I feel like it's our job to make sure that they do it anyway, you know? So,
right.
Because electing more of them isn't going to help. There's already how many of them? And they're unwilling to do any action? I mean, enforce the vote definitely showed us that. Then on top of that, you're not going to endorse someone who supposedly agrees with you? Like 90% of the time? Nina Turner's been sticking her neck out for you?
Yes.
Like,
no, look, I admit, like, again, I told, you know, you guys know I'm done with this strategy. I think we need to, again, for those who are new and don't know, 80% direct action mutual aid. We need to do 20% electoral politics. And even by that, I think electoral politics, we need to really focus on it at the local level. I think that's where we need to look, because you can implement change that way on the local level. But I will say, I am heavily, heavily disappointed at the way that they treated Nina Turner.
Yeah.
It's such a slap in the face. It's such a slap. And to see AOC constantly promote Jessica Cisneros, which she's been doing for the past couple of weeks, by the way. Jessica Cisneros' election was not this month. It hasn't happened yet. And she's been heavily promoting her because I really believe they're lining up Jessica Cisneros to be the next AOC. She checks off all the boxes. She's a woman. She's a person of color. She's a gem for them. She's a gem. And this is what they do. So it's like they look at someone like Nina Turner like, oh, that's a little bit too much. This is absolutely ridiculous. And I really do believe that the reason why Nina Turner lost more support this time in this race than the race last year is because obviously the money is an issue. We all know that. That's always going to be a problem. The negative ads, that's always going to be an issue. But she
outraised her, didn't she?
Right. But she outraised her, but they had money come in right at the last minute for Chantel, just like before. But the thing is that I think what people really need to understand is that you have a group of the left that I think is depressed, and they did not have that. They didn't feel that enthusiasm and that joy to come back out and do this again. It was a 20,000.
What would make them enthused?
Right.
It's we're easy to enthuse. We're easy to please, honestly. Right? You come out and say the right things and call it the right people. Right? You actually give a populist message. We're here for you every day of the week. Right?
Right.
We'll forgive a lot. We do all the time. You know, I find it interesting, and you know, I know Colin has been talking about it this week as well. You know, this Roe v. Wade situation has seemingly awoken many liberal. Why do you think now, right, when we've clearly seen this stuff, you know, for a while, especially among the squad, why do you think now their inaction speaks to people like Anna or, you know, any of the new shit libs who want to jump on this Democrats are bad bandwagon?
Well, it's a midterm year. And Amy Klobuchar tweeted out herself. She said, I'm going to fight for this starting now until November. I'm like, really?
Until November?
You just said the quiet part out loud. So,
and Marianne Williamson is out here trying to get us to support Beto O'Rourke. Like, what? Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a recent tweet. You know, like it just kind of baffles me that like they have refused to listen to anybody with any sense, it seems. You know? So, and it's not like we haven't been screaming these messages. So, I don't know. You know?
No, like, you're right.
It's why I don't see much hope in electoral situations anyway. If we can't get the politicians that we've already elected to do what they said they were going to do, how do you expect any others to do the same? To me, that's just putting another, like, you know, mascot in, essentially. You know? But
I agree.
Until you can hold them accountable, there's not much, like, you know, I keep saying that we're not at rock bottom yet. That things aren't going to change until we're there. You know? So I would like to think that this addict that is the American government and the populace who supports it, like, to hear this intervention, they're not going to till, you know, it's going to get worser. You know?
That's a good point. There's something I want to say. Do you possibly think that maybe we went about this the wrong way? I was thinking about this over the past couple of days. I'm wondering maybe if we should have been trying to do two different experiments at the same time. For example, the Justice Democrats experiment, that's one way, right? Like putting progressives into the Democratic Party and hoping they can change things from within. But I'm wondering if we also should have tried another experiment where we were also trying to mobilize people and get people to vote third party and independent as well. And the reason why I say that...
There was definitely some people in the movement that were trying to have that happen. You know?
Well, not to the same level as they were promoting Justice Democrats, right?
Absolutely.
So I'll give you an example. Yeah. When Bernie Sanders was running in 2016, And, his race between him and Hillary, that was actually pretty close. When Bernie Sanders lost to Hillary, if we would have been running both of those experiments at the same time, I feel like more people would have known about Jill Stein, and that would have been the backup. Hey, guys, we're going to go with Bernie Sanders. If Bernie Sanders does not beat Hillary Clinton, all of us are going to shift and vote for Jill Stein. We didn't do that. What happened was Bernie Sanders lost, and then you had networks like TYT telling people, well, you got to vote for Hillary or else you're going to get Trump. Mm-hmm. But imagine if all of us would have moved from Bernie and voted for Jill Stein. She was on the ballot in 48 states.
Yeah. No, I mean, I completely agree. I agreed then, right? I know Jimmy Dore was saying that for a while during that time, as well as when Howie Hawkins was running, right? Just because, like, we're all done with voting for the lesser of two evils, which even then one could argue that that's voting for the lesser of evils. Like, you don't know, like, they're all just figureheads anyway. But at least I'm willing to vote for the person who lies to me better, for sure. But yeah, no, I mean, I think people were to some degree, but you're right. If TYT had done that and looked at things a little differently, and it's not for lack of being told, for sure. I imagine Katzenberg Cash definitely kept them from saying particular things, but
that's a good point.
Unfortunately,
I have a lot of callers, so
yeah,
I am gonna.
Yeah, I could talk all day, so feel free to kick me off.
Okay.
All right. Love you. Bye.
Bye. All right. It looks like Bad Faith is here. Welcome. Bad Faith says Glenn Greenwald also had her on early at The Intercept. Okay, good point. I didn't realize that. I'll have to go back and check. Thanks for the super chat, AJF. MOK and even Malcolm X was right. Beware of the liberals. The right make it obvious they're against you, but the libs shiv on the side to back it. Thank you so much for that. That's a good point as well. All right, Delthea, you're on the mic. You just got to unmute.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, good. Did the Justice Democrats fail? Yes. They failed justice and they failed democracy. They were sent there to do a job that they're not going to do, because the three things that make the world go around are wealth, power, and prestige. Those are three very, very, very addictive narcotics, and they are very, very addicted. And they're not going to do anything that's going to take away their fix. That's all I had to say. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Delthea. Thanks so much for calling in. All right, Anthony, you are the next caller.
Hey, what's up, Sabby? What a great show. Good to see you. Talk with you.
Thanks so much. So how do you feel about this? The poll was pretty crazy.
Oh, they absolutely failed. Matter of fact, I confronted a Justice Democrat, or more specifically a squad member today. I confronted them over her support of the Ukraine war. And funny enough, it's on a little video. I just DM'd it to you on Twitter. I don't know if you're able to pull it up, but she totally ignored my question. But I confront this squad member. I got a local squad member here. I confront them all the time. They're full of baloney. They're surrounded by DSA ass kissers. And yeah, they failed big time.
Are you in DC area?
No, Detroit. And we have Rashida Tlaib here, and she's always out and about at little protests and stuff. So, of course, she had a press conference with two other Congress people today. Raul Grijalva, he came from Arizona, and Debbie Dingell, she's a local here too. And it was all about like the environment. And at the end of it, I was holding up a sign the whole time that said, "Stop voting for the Ukraine war" today. And at the very end of it, I said, "Hey, Rashida, will you stop voting for the Ukraine war?" But she ran away.
I see it. It's 15 seconds. I'm going to play it really quick. Eric, I'm going to share my screen just because it's in my Twitter DM. So let me see really quick. Okay, here we go.
Women. I talked to Secretary Fudd. The issue is land in the houses in Detroit in the paint as well.
Yeah, I agree. Will you stop voting for the Ukraine war, Rashida?
Wow.
Yeah. And then the video ended.
Okay, I guess that answers that question.
Yeah, so that's a no. I mean, they failed big time. They don't even know what they're doing. Her predecessor actually wrote a letter about supporting Nazis, and she speaks very highly. John Conyers, but I've written, so they have no excuse at this point. They failed big time. The squad.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
The whole Ukraine thing, but yeah, I don't know. That's about it. That's kind of activism I think we need to do. Keep confronting these people. All right, thanks, Sid.
I agree. Well said. Thanks so much for calling, Anthony. All right, Lance, you are now the next caller. Just got to hit unmute.
Hey, Sabby, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Good. So, yeah, this whole thing with the progressives and everything. I mean, there's so many ways to approach. The memory that people have that Obama, who picked Joe Biden to be his successor, 60 votes in the filibuster proof and a huge margin in the House. That wasn't that long ago. This is the same party and everything. How could people dream that voting blue at this point just with that, let alone what they did to Bernie 2016, Bernie 2020, and as far as Nina and all that, yeah, it's crazy. Here's the thing about ignorant Republicans versus the elite intellectual Democrats, right? If Bernie was an NFL coach, like the Harbaugh brothers, can you imagine if one brother said after the Super Bowl, geez, coach, why didn't you had the starter was gone already and the backup quarterback was limping on one leg and they had a rookie with no snaps ever as the only guy left. Why didn't you rush? You're a blitzer. He's my brother. He's my friend more than he's my brother. God never coach again. But if you're the president, you want to lead the free world, but you don't want to criticize Biden because he's your buddy, go away. That's it. You're done. And here's what I would say about that, right? Because we've said a lot of these things back and forth, but can you imagine taking the Obama, switch it, GOP? Can you imagine these ignorant, Rube, QAnon, creationists, whatever you want to call them, which of course I'm being sarcastic, Republicans, they wouldn't put up with this if it was the other way around. They'd have had Obama out, ridden him out of town on a rail. They'd have told Bernie, go away. We don't need you with no backbone. Get the hell out, even if you agree with us. You see, and so this is what the horribleness is that the stupidity or willful ignorance on the left far exceeds anything on the right.
It's weak. It's weak. It's like we don't have that same type of fight, that same type of energy and power. And you're right. Like they wouldn't put up with this if this was the other way around. And I don't really think the people who are there are going to change. I mean, they've been there for a couple of years. The people who won, or at least the original squad that won in 2018, they've been there for a couple of years now. I mean, I don't think they're going to change. And I'm sorry, but I think anyone else that we put in using this same strategy, the same thing is going to happen because the party decides what they want.
Yeah. And another thing is, let's call their bluff. Okay, let's take your point that they'd rather lose. And once they didn't fight in Georgia and they didn't have a plan after they won Georgia, and it was because of grassroots, they didn't go in and try to win it. Now we're in charge. I said this in 2008, based on the things that Obama said before he even got elected. I said, watch them do a pirouette and all kinds of kabuki theater now that they have total control to skirt away from doing anything. And that's sure enough what Obama did. So my cynicism goes way back. But with what's happening now, it's like, how about a couple of cycles in the wilderness? How about a 15% party that lets the GOP take over everything for 2 or 3 cycles? Then all of a sudden, those consultants are going to be like, we're permanently losing. All of a sudden, these third-party people are going to look awfully palatable to the left. So go into the wilderness. We got through Trump. We'll get through another 4 years of Trump. Biden ain't any better. And some people have been saying the crimes of Obama And Bush, 43, far outweigh anything Trump did. He was pretty much an isolationist who really didn't want war. So don't give me this bit that we're better off with one party or with vote blue no matter who. We could be worse off. And here's one more point. I said to somebody who's my sister, might as well have Trump because they were absolutely right, Republicans. And I'll stop here and recall or mute. They were right that as far as Trump, we're not. We have to call their bluff anyway. Is all I'm saying is that we cannot just keep going with this round and round in circles. And how many battles you have to fight on the left, like the Nevada State Party, the Democratic Socialist basically Democratic Party. It took over and they took all the money and ran and fought him after the fact. India Walton won the primary. They got a write-in candidate to fight him. So you have to fight more battles within the party to get anywhere to even get elected than if you had a third party where at least everybody's going to be on your side where it's all base.
Well said, Lance. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next caller. Thanks so much for calling in. All right. Tyler, you are next. You just have to unmute.
Hey, Sabby, how are you? Love your show.
Hey, thanks so much for calling in.
So I really appreciate the topic so much. One thing I try to do when I feel like most people here are sort of in agreement on this topic, right? We're sort of the original squad supporters in your community. And so I think the people listening to you are probably of the feeling of being pretty disillusioned at this point, or at least not satisfied with where this like Justice Democrats kind of squad movement has gone. But so I feel like we're kind of a collective kind of mutual perspective here, and I always try to when I'm in those situations, I always try to think about what's the counter argument that I'm gonna experience when I step out of that familiar space, right? Like what's the steel man of the pushback that I'm going to get once we kind of leave our friendly area here. And it's one of the things I know is going to come up that I've heard from left media commentators is this, you're engaging in electoral nihilism, right? And you've heard this before, of course. And I think, at this point, I think that the primary counter arguments to that point, because it's a fair point, right? Like the idea of, what else are you going to do other than, kind of donate to the best, congressional candidates you can and do the best you can within the system. Like, what are you going to do? Like go be a crazy third party or something? Well, the idea is at this point, I sort of am willing to do, what we need to do to sort of force the people who claim to represent us to show us something, right? And the very least of which I think is withholding our votes, right? Or voting for someone else, or even voting Republican if we think that that's a threat that we need to make, right? Like,
but can I just one thing I just want to add here, because this term is being thrown around a lot. I think people need to look at the definition of the word nihilism, because for one, we're not saying don't do anything. We have a different idea and a different strategy that we think we should take. And some of those people know that. The problem is they don't want to do that strategy. Some of them don't believe in third parties. They don't believe in independent candidates. They don't really want to do direct action. They don't really want to do mutual aid. And for some of them, it's because that's just not their thing. And for some of them, it's because that's not a part of their brand. Let's just be real. A lot of these people grew during Bernie Sanders campaigns. So I do want to put that out there because I'm hearing a lot of people say that, you guys it's just nihilism. It's just, no, I'm telling you the reality. You know that money controls both of these parties. So if this is the strategy that you want to use, then you should be focused on getting money out of politics. Now, obviously, that's going to take a long time, right? So in the meantime, what could you be doing? You need to do direct action, need to do mutual aid. Like, the fact that we donated $100 million to Bernie Sanders, we could have donated that money to mutual aid and actually helped people in this country. That's the problem. And so we just throw all this money, we just throw it away to these politicians. And for what? So they can get in office and not do anything for us?
Well, I definitely agree with you. And I would say that the one fair point they're making is they're calling it political nihilism, which means you're just going to give up on politics. And I think the pushback you just made is an entirely fair one to say, like, well, yeah, there's better things we can do with our time. And so that's where I'm sort of at is, you could, I think an earlier caller made this point, like, we're sort of an easy sell, right? Like you could convince me if you did something good for my life, right? Why don't you actually end the wars, right? Why don't you actually pass Medicare for all? Fucking something as legal as small as legalized weed, right? Like we'd be a little disappointed if that was all it was, but like we'd be grateful and we'd make points about that to our friends, right? Like we would care. Like we are a pretty easy sell, and what do they say in Missouri? Is it show me? Like just the pushback we're going to get is like, okay, you're engaging in political nihilism because you don't think this works for you anymore. What else are you going to do? And my response to that primarily is like, well, there's a lot else I could do with my time, A, which is the point you made very well, and B, like, if you want to sell me on this, like, I'm an easy sell, show me something. I will show up and vote for you if you give me Medicare for all. I will show up and vote for you if you bring my buddies home from Iraq, right? Like, you can get me with those. You could just do that, and okay, I'll do that based on that decision, right? Like, so I think a lot of are of the mind that like we have really nothing to like the reason that we're all kind of congruent on this point, and the thing I want to prepare us for is the pushback that we're going to get. And it's like my own perspective is the way to respond to that is like, hey, you could go do something. You can win me over with this. I'm not throwing a tantrum here. Oh, and the last point, a really good point that just popped up. Now we have normies like Anna and Mike Figurino who are also fed up with the squad. Like, we're convincing really, really, really mainstream ass people at this point. like, you want to get us back? It's easy, right? Like, it'd be easier to get Anna than me, but like, Jesus Christ, like, you could do something. You've done
Right.
so literally so many years of literal nothing that you've even lost them. I'll sign off there and just get your reflection on that. Thank you, Sabby.
Thanks so much. Right. And I'm not saying, like, I know some people still do want to vote. I'm not saying don't vote. Like, those of us at RBN, we have different opinions about electoralism. Some of us don't believe in voting anymore at all. Some of us only believe in voting for independent and third party candidates. And I think that if we were giving those candidates the same platform that we were giving these progressive candidates, more people would vote for them because they would know about them. They would know that they're running. Now, I brought multiple third-party candidates on this show, but again, this is a small channel, so I'm only reaching so many people. But when I hear people say, oh, I don't believe in third parties, I don't believe in independent candidates, and da-da-da, people didn't believe in this whole voting progressives in the Democratic Party either. In the beginning, there were people like, oh, I don't know, I don't think that's going to work. And so I'm not saying that you should not vote at all. I'm saying instead of vote in this two-party system, why don't you vote for these third-party and independent candidates who sometimes they have a better political platform. They have a better message on their website. For example, Jill Stein had a great platform, but because of mainstream media propaganda, so many people were convinced that they needed to vote for Hillary Clinton because Jill Stein was a Russian asset or whatever. Like, you're already going to get that pressure from mainstream media, and they're already going to use the narrative that they want, right? That's where, for like independent media, we should come in and debunk that narrative. But we shouldn't only be looking at the progressive candidates. Like, you have progressive candidates that run Green Party. You have progressive candidates that run as independents. If you're only focusing on the ones that want to run through the Democratic Party, this is a problem. Look, the jig is up. I'll just be honest with you guys. I think this is a failed experiment. I think we need to try to do something else. And I think this time around, with this week in particular, you can't ignore it this time. You really can't make excuses for it this time. The way the squad just abandoned Nina Turner like that, this whole Roe v. Wade like discussion, like this could have been taken care of years ago. They could have codified Roe v. Wade into law. So you can't excuse it this time. Like, I'm sorry, but you really can't. So Why am I still going to tell people to vote for these progressives, to put them in there, to go into a corrupt party, a corrupt system that I know they're not going to beat because the party is going to push them out? And I don't hear anyone talking about this part of it. The fact that the people that we have had in office that did challenge the Democratic Party, they were pushed out. Cynthia McKinney, Dennis Kucinich, Ralph Nader, they're gone. What do you guys think is going to happen to AOC and the rest of them too? If they try to do those things, they're going to be gone too. That's why they're going along with what the establishment wants. So I think we need to try something different. I would rather see all of them from the squad leave DC and start organizing. Cori Bush comes from activism. Get out on the ground, organize, and get people, riled up. They have way more followers than I do. Way more. And get all of their supporters to come challenge the system. I would rather see them do that, because at this point, I think the progressives in the Democratic Party, I think that needs to be a separate thing. It's not going to work. You see Nancy Pelosi and Jim Clyburn, they're endorsing someone who's pro-life instead of endorsing Jessica Cisneros, who is pro-choice. They're going to endorse the establishment candidate. Same thing, the Congressional Black Caucus, they endorse Shontel Brown instead of Nina Turner. They're both Black, but Nina Turner is not establishment. This is always going to be the issue. I'm going to go ahead to the next caller, Greg. Just got to unmute.
Hello.
Greetings.
So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about it in terms of like Nina being the kind of like the last hope for Justice Democrats. I mean, no one else has anywhere near her her popularity. I just don't see where they would go from here. So, absolutely, they're done. And like the fact that they're dependent on this one candidate kind of proves, like, what does that tell you about the movement? It's just, we all know this electoral movement's over. So very clearly they failed. So let's leave it at that.
Agreed. Yeah, they have to have the one star. Like before it was AOC, this time around it's Nina Turner, I wish that same amount of focus would have been put on Paula Jean Swearengin and some of the other Justice Democrats that ran. Even when you watch that documentary, Knocking Down the House, most of the focus is on AOC, and that's the one who won. So it is what it is. I'm going to take the next caller. All right. Owen, you're the next caller. Just got to hit unmute.
Hello, Sabby. Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, thank you so much. This does have to do with the Justice Democrats already agreed that they failed. But what I wanted to ask about today was specifically the Black elite and their role in standing in the way of progress in this country.
Do tell.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I said do tell.
Okay. So I got you. So just so the audience knows, what I define as the Black elite is basically the leaders of churches, charities, the NAACP, and most importantly, celebrity activists. And just so everyone knows as well, the only difference between people on the left and the right in the Black elite is the rhetoric that they spit, whether it be online or publicly. But actually, in private, we all know that they act the same ways when it comes to their economic status. So my main question was, I wrote it down because my internet is bad because I'm poor. How does the left deal with the issue of the Black elite, who are in control of the majority of Black media, when white leftists in these political spaces, like those in the DSA, have trouble or are afraid to publicly disagree with Black people? And I found that was a major problem when it came to the Bernie Sanders campaign in both of the times that he ran. So I just wanted your opinion on that.
I think the best way to do that is to focus on the class issue, because you're right. Anytime they get that challenge or that pushback, it's easy for someone to say, oh, well, they said this mean thing to this Black leader, the racist. And that will happen, right? So I think, you need to focus on the class issue. And at the end of the day, and Nick and I talk about this a lot on RBN, this is one of the things I've noticed. So I went to college with people who were, a lot of them were wealthy, just keeping it real. And I was not. I came from a middle class family. And one of the things that I noticed, even when it came to wealthy Black students, it seemed like wealthy Black people were class loyal first and were Black second. And what I mean by that is, you look at someone like Will Smith, you look at someone like Morgan Freeman, right? They're all for these protests or whatever action is going on until it starts to affect their wealth, their wallet, their capital. Once it starts to affect that, then all of a sudden they back off, right? So Will Smith came out against defunding the police because he's wealthy. Police protect capital. They keep those neighborhoods safe. They don't keep the neighborhoods safe that actually have more crime and more violence. So at the end of the day, it all comes down to money. And I would recommend for people struggling with that same issue, I think you have to bring it back to the class issue and just explain, like, listen, if you're on the left or the right, if you're poor, you're still poor. It doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right. If you're rich, it doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right, you're still rich. And so when you look at that study from Princeton, I talked about this one time on my show. I think I need to show that chart again. There was a study done in Princeton that showed that when it comes to electoral politics and policy change, people who are poor, low income, and middle income actually have no impact on policy change. People who are upper middle class and wealthy do have impact on policy change. Now, what does that tell you? That tells you that policies are only changed when they affect and impact people who have money. For the rest of us, we don't get those changes. That's why nothing really improves for people who are in poverty, for people who are middle class. That's why we struggle so much more, right? Like, we may have more debt, especially when it comes to student loans. But for people who are wealthy, when they go out and vote, they're the ones that are more likely to actually impact policy change. Because at the end of the day, these policies that are passed, especially in DC, they don't pass anything that doesn't have corporate interest. So for those of us that are, lower income or middle income, we don't really benefit them. They don't get anything from us. So when people run up against that situation, I recommend that they bring it back to the class issue. That way they don't get that pushback of, well, you said something to a Black person, so you're racist. I recommend going with the class issue.
Thank you, Sabby.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for calling in. I'm going to go to the next caller, and this is Sean.
Hey, Sabby, thanks for taking my call.
Thanks so much for calling.
I think the Justice Democrats is a failure. I think the Green Party, the People's Party, and even the Libertarian Party are all failures because we're trying to create a third party within the framework of an existing political system that's designed to freeze us out. And we need to be a lot more creative in the way that we engage this. I had this conversation with Bree on call-in, and I also had it with Jay. And I think we need to engage voters. People are very disillusioned with the political system. We have extremely low voter turnout.
Right.
And the key is not to, progressives, we have progressives. We have people that listen to your show. They're in it. But we need to engage independents and non-voters. And I think we do that by giving people agency within their political organization. And that would be by doing something like embracing the technology that we have, where we can poll millions of people instantly. Chris Hedges, he and some people like that, they kind of sneer at social media and stuff, but it got millions of people in the streets for the largest protests across the nation in U.S. history. And my idea for a third party is we need to structure it like a game, where like a video game, where you get points for voting, you get points for organizing events, you get points for attending events, you get points for sharing content, and maybe you get to have a segment with your favorite YouTube host that's affiliated with the party. Maybe you get amplified tweets or social media posts, but you have to incentivize people to interact. You have to give people agency to make them feel as though they have a voice inside the party. Because right now, I mean, people rightly understand that it doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter who they vote for. The political system is controlled by money. And we keep ourselves stuck in this framework where we're trying to fight money. I mean, literally billions of dollars by their rules. And it's not going to work. I mean, we need to think outside the box. We need to be creative. Every institution there is against us. Every capital is against us. But we do have the numbers. I mean, you see the approval ratings of Biden, of the Senate. I mean, people are pissed. People don't trust the news. And an organization that isn't so top down, like Nick Brana and, a handful of people ran the People's Party and they were able to co-opt it. Obviously, something happened. You see what happened. They fixed the Green Party election for Howie Hawkins. Something's up in there. Obviously, we know how corrupt the Democratic Party is. Obviously, we know how useless the Squad and every single one of those so-called progressives that we wasted time and money getting in office. I mean, they're utterly useless. And in fact, I mean, they're just servants of imperialism and corporate power. And if we had like a system where we voted, say we had a presidential ticket where we nominated and elected our whole cabinet, and we had a specific, we addressed every issue specifically. Like, what if Ralph Nader was going around the country campaigning as our attorney general, talking about locking up corporate criminals and Wall Street criminals? Or Richard Wolff was our Secretary of Treasury, going around delivering our economic policy? Or Hedges was our Secretary of Defense, or Secretary of State, and we could speak to every issue specifically, and we didn't have to have. I mean, we could have one of those guys in 12 different states campaigning. I think we just need to embrace direct democracy, embrace technology, and embrace like this sort of thing like we're doing now with call-in, where people have a voice. We need to do that for people.
Wow, well said. That is a really good point. I think you have something there. I really do. Like I like that idea. Like especially having someone in every state. Um, I could see that working. I think in the meantime, how do we help people right now? Like in the short term, I think, doing things like what Rome does, like Tour for the Poor, that really helps people. When he came to Boston, like you guys have no idea how many homeless people there are now. Like I'm just talking like just here in Boston. Like it's sad. But
I
crowdfunding
think
and getting those
I think an
supplies that people need.
organization like that though could help give people like Rome more of a platform within a party structured like that. Like I said, if you incentivize organizing and incentivize direct action, and then through the party, make sure that people know about people like Rome and
Right.
know what he's doing and know where to contribute their money. You don't get points for donations. You get points for actually being out there. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's how I would structure it anyway. But I think you could apply that to the local levels.
I agree. Well said. Well said. Thank you so much for calling in. I'm going to get to the next caller.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. That was on point, you guys. Like that was very well said. Jewel, you're the next caller. Just got to unmute.
Hello, Sabby.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. Last time I called, I didn't get to thank you and the team for everything you guys do. I can't, describe, but it's really valuable. I actually thought this was, oh yeah, I actually thought this was a loaded question. I was surprised that, in this circle, it's not, but I kind of have like a philosophy take on it. And this Justice Democrat movement, I don't think was ever about us. Like, I'm looking at their website, and their mission says we need a Democratic Party that fights for its voters, not big corporate donors. Our goal is to build a mission-driven caucus in Congress by electing more leaders like AOC and Jamal Bowman. Jamal Bowman's my favorite. Who will represent our communities in Congress and fight for bold, progressive solutions to our current crises. So really, they just want to build saviors to just funnel anyone that has any radical bones into, to wear them out, is what I'm thinking. And what has happened over the past 4 years is we went from abolition, like there's always that radical, like hanging at the edges, but we always get funneled back into reform. And I think they want to keep us in this reform ideology. Like I see it on the local level where they're just like, let us do the research and we'll get back to you. And we all talk about how people don't have the time.
Right.
I just wanted to be kind of because everyone has a yes vote and I didn't vote. So I was kind of just going to be the devil's advocate with that.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that, but now that you mention it, when Justice Democrats started, they weren't supposed to take corporate money, but later on they decided to take billionaire money. So you can't even trust these organizations. That's something I have noticed, especially like as an organizer, as an activist. I had to be very careful about what group I joined because it's been a number of times where I found an organization and I thought like this one was going to be the right one. And then as you get into it, you realize like their whole goal at the end of the day was still to funnel you back into the Democratic Party instead of just focusing on the mission at hand and the activism. And so you have to be careful with these organizations. Sunrise Movement, the Working Families Party, Justice Democrats, they all take billionaire money. Like George Soros should not be giving money to Justice Democrats and Working Families Party. Like this is a problem. And so you can't really trust like these organizations. You have to be careful. So even in my mind, I'm thinking like, should we even go through an organization? Should we even go through a party? Maybe this is why some people just run independent and don't even run as a Green Party, right? Or libertarian like party. Like, I just feel like the parties, when you go through a party, you have that risk of getting infiltrators, of being corrupted, of people changing the original message of what it was supposed to be, and just groups in general. Like, look what happened to the Progressive Caucus. I'm pretty sure that's not what Bernie Sanders and the other co-founders intended for that to be. But the Democratic Party got a hold of it, and now anybody can join the Progressive Caucus. So
yeah, it's bastardized. They take every radical thing that people come up with that's well intentioned, and they bastardize it.
Right,
and
I
I think
agree.
that's the goal. That's the goal. And then everyone that's like, hey, we shouldn't do this. It's you're a racist, da da da. Or you're disrupting. My favorite one I've heard is you're disrupting the collective, because I was looking at their page and it's all about being together. You're disrupting the collective. Like, I don't even know what that means. Like, I have bills for, like, it can be selfish. Like, the radicalness can be to, like, it's one come all, but it can be like self-serving at the, I hope that makes sense.
I agree. Jewel,
I
thanks
think
so
it
much
should to
for
extent. Yeah, I'll let you go. Thank you for taking my call.
thanks so much for calling in. You're the only Jewel I've ever met that's not Jewel the singer. I just wanted to add that. So when I see your name, it reminds me of, I see that CD cover of Jewel, Pieces of You. I don't know how old everyone is in the chat, but you're the only other Jewel.
Your intuition.
Exactly. You know what I'm talking about, Jewel. Oh man, you're taking me back now.
I love her. I'll let you go. Have a good night.
All right. You too. All right. I am going to select the next caller, which is Michael. Now I have the Jewel song in my head, that You Were Meant for Me song. All right, Michael, you are next. Just have to unmute. Michael. Can you unmute, Michael? Is it going to let you unmute? Let me put you as invite to speak. I don't know. Sometimes it has that issue where.
Yes, Sabby.
Okay, I got you.
Hi.
All right.
Hi, Sabby. Sorry. So me, Michael Pan. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. Yes, I remember last time you and I spoke about a couple of months ago. So yes, and the question you asked about, have Justice Democrats, I'm not sure if I remember correct, have Justice Democrats done enough? And after thinking about this for a very long, thinking about this for a very long time, the Justice Democrats have been hijacked, have been corrupt, and I think of them like they're really on the same team of white supremacy and classism, or on the same side of the eagle coin. So they're really no different from the modern Democrats, Republicans, and progressives. And I call the progressives Pinos, meaning progressives in name only. And I say that what we should focus on is both collective and individual tangibles. And the reason I say that, because yes, everybody needs universal health care, needs tuition, debt-free public education, and advanced vocational training. They need debt relief. But at the same time, the tangibles need to be targeted. Like, for example, like the LGBTs receive money. People who cross the border receive $450,000. Even like immigrants who came to this country who have not been U.S. citizens for a very long time can now vote. Can you? And I'm like, that's ridiculous. And Black Americans who've been here for 400 years and counting couldn't even achieve real freedom. And I say to the Democrats, I'm glad I didn't. Thank God I did not vote for Biden in the 2020 U.S. presidential election. I set out since 2000. No, I'm sorry. Since 2000, since 2020, because I knew already Biden, he was not going to keep his promises, and he was not going to fight very hard. And I also knew because of his history, when he was the U.S. Senator from Delaware, he incarcerated a lot of black people. And in his the 1994 crime bill accelerated mass incarceration because a lot of states were doing it before Biden introduced the bill. So with him, no, I can't. And also you mentioned that whenever about how Congress creates policies for upper middle class and rich people. I already knew that already. And that's why I think you said from your podcast earlier was that local and state elections matter because they really impact middle class, working class people, and homelessness. And I'm not to say that people who serve in local office are corrupt. I mean, they're not as corrupt as at the national level, but I think it's easier to navigate at the state and local level to build a base. And also, I feel like at the same time, we need to start a complementary party where people have different experiences, right? So I'll give you an example to make it brief. So someone on the right does not agree on free tuition, right? And someone on the left does not agree with vocational training. I say let's complement these two together. Why not just make both vocational training and public education free at the same time? Because think about it. If Republican voters don't want to go to college, but at the same time, they don't want to go in debt, they don't want to make below poverty wages, at least they can attain a certificate and become a technician or whatever trades they pursue for free without any student loans. And same thing with free public education as well. Because why are we telling people when they choose, trades and college education, like, oh, you have to go there for money? And it's really sad, and it's really, I find it very disappointing and upsetting that you have to choose money. It's like you have to marry someone who's wealthy. You know what I mean? You can't choose happiness. You have to choose profits over happiness.
But that's what happens in the capitalist system.
Right, exactly, right. And that's why, and I think about this, for a very long time that Black Americans, they also deserve, Black American of descendants of slavery deserve reparations after more than 400 years because they built this country from bottom to top. But the problem is that they didn't build this country for themselves. They built for others, and then others took advantage of it. And when I hear others say that they're sorry, being apologetic is not enough. And that's what Black Americans are saying. Give us tangibles. So that's how Black Americans gave tangibles to immigrants, LGBT, Asians. And by the way, I'm Asian American, and I'm seeing this, and I'm thinking about it critically, that all groups owe Black Americans reparations. It's just not the white elites, but it's also other individuals as well. And that's why I say it's best to think about a complementary party or create a complementary party where people can, not only say compete, but treat it equally, but people have unique circumstances. I mean, just like in Europe, where, like, I'm sure because you studied in Germany before, people are not choosing to go to college or trades because they want to go in debt. They choose those routes because it's what they want to do in the future. What's their interest? What's their passion?
Right.
And,
right.
And
Plus,
also,
college is also free in Germany too.
Right, of course, right. And I know that, yes, because I know Germany recently implemented free tuition not too long ago, since 2014, because Germany and America are very similar. They have similar, they have similar economies, but also similar financial challenges. But Germany made the right decision to implement free tuition because Germans saw what happened in America. How Americans like to say we're the land of opportunity, land of the free. But if we're the land of the free, why are so many people not liberated from their student loan debt?
Right. Well said.
Yes. And I just want to ask you a quick question before. I mean, I know you have other callers too. I'm just very curious. So after like what I've said and what you've listened, what's your opinion about creating a complementary party where the left will not hijack or intervene or even judge people where they're at, but at the same time we're fighting for universal policies such as reparations for ADOS, free tuition, Medicare for all, paid maternity leave, paid paternity leave. I mean, there are some people who do support abortion, some people who don't, but those who don't support abortion, but at least they want affordable childcare. They want paid time off or paid FMLA.
Well, that's what MPP was supposed to be. That's what that's what MPP was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a populist. I think they've gone back and forth on this. At one point, it was progressive. Next point, it was like populist. But it's supposed to be a populist party where you had people connected on the issues and not identity politics. That's what MPP was supposed to be. But we see there's been a lot of problems there as well, and that's why I think Roger Meadows is right on when he says that you don't need political parties. Like Roger Meadows says, abolish all political parties. And I can see that as well, because that is the reality. Regardless of what party you have, you are going to have people in it that are bad faith actors. It happens with even with organizations. I've experienced it as well. So I would say I'm not sure about trying to start another party per se. I think we're going to run into some of the same issues that the Green Party has run into. I think if you are so interested in that route, we should be trying to take over the Green Party. The Green Party is a mess.
I agree,
I think structurally it has some issues. They've had like great candidates and like they've been able to win a lot on the local level, which some people don't realize that even though they're not winning on the national level, they do win on the local level. So I think that we should focus on, I think we have a better chance of taking over the Green Party and fixing that than putting progressives through the Democratic Party and fixing that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, because even had issues with, are you familiar with Morgan Harper, who just lost to Tim Ryan a couple of days ago?
Yes.
Yes, so on her team, I got kicked out because I was being too aggressive with one of the voters, right? And I didn't agree with the Morgan Harper's strategy of we had to play nice with people. Let's be decent. I said, no, I'm not going to play nice and decent with people who are trying to disrespect me, because I'm always about equality. I'm always about equal opportunity paying. You treat me nice, I'll treat you nice, right? But if you treat me with disrespect, I'm going to treat you with disrespect also. And I think that's the issue that the Morgan Harper team had an issue with, because I was being too controversial. I was being unique. I was being independent. I was not following the rules of the realm or the rules of engaging voters. Because if you look at Republicans, I'm sure you notice, Republicans are very organized in their strategies, their movements, their thinking, and not only that, and not to say I support Republicans. I don't, but I like how they organize, how they move very quickly. Well, that's the issue I see with Democrats. They're not very organized. They don't move very quickly, especially the old guards who've been in office for like more than 30 years. And you see with Jim Clyburn, who's a bootlicker, right? And I'm sure you're familiar with someone named Greg Marshall Dixon. He's primary against Jim Clyburn because Jim Clyburn has failed his district for 30 years. Poverty rate has not changed. Very few jobs have been created. Pretty much his district is almost like vacant. You know what I mean?
I know. I went to college in South Carolina. My parents retired in South Carolina. Like Jim Clyburn is absolutely awful. Absolutely awful. I do want to make sure I get to the next callers, but that will be someone that is very difficult to beat, because the people especially in his district in particular, they are getting messages from the Black church. They're getting messages from other organizations in the community as well. And that's why they continue to vote for him. And it's usually the same people that come out and vote. And it's unfortunate, but I do want to go ahead and get to the next caller. Thanks so much. All right, Lance.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Lance, since you already went, I'm going to go to Val. So Val, you're on the mic. You just got to unmute. Just got to unmute, Val. Okay, Val might be stuck in a glitch. I'm going to go to Nay. Nay, you're the next caller. You just got to hit unmute. I think people are hitting the wrong button. No hashtag no war. You're the next caller. Just got to hit unmute.
Sorry, I was doing dishes and then I had to get back on my phone. Hi, Sabby. Nice to speak with you.
You too.
How are you?
Good.
You like those East Coast IPAs? You still having one of those?
Yes, I like these so much better than the West Coast because the West Coast IPAs are too bitter for me.
All right, I'm the opposite. I'm drinking a West Coast IPA right now. Anyway, at least you're drinking an IPA. I consider that a win. So I completely agree with what you said in your show tonight. I didn't get to listen to all of it. I backtracked and I got to catch back up and finish listening to it. But TYT is going to be back at supporting Democrats soon, and that was a momentary thing. I hadn't seen the update from Anna saying, "Oh, I was talking about Republicans." Like, I don't even know what to say about that. It's ridiculous. I'm blocked by her too because I told her she was a loser, and that was too much for her to handle. Which I think is hilarious. Whatever. But yeah, I'm done voting for those people. I think the Justice Democrats are a failure, and I'm looking onward and upward. I think taking over the Green Party, like you just mentioned with the previous caller, is a better tactic than working inside the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party's bought and paid for. And, I encounter people. There's a guy that is in a lot of Breeze call-ins who in a southern state, I forget, and he's a nice dude, but he keeps telling people to jump into their county Democratic Party and work in there and take it over. And I'm like, yeah, but then what? What do we do then? Like, look at all the Bernie-crats that took over the Democratic Party in Nevada, right? And then they've been having court challenges. They've had nonstop battles. Since then, it's not realistic to take over the Democratic Party. It just isn't. They're hopeless. There's too much money entrenched in that party for us to have any chance of it. There's just no chance. And so anybody that kind of pushes for that direction, I like to argue with and disagree with, because it's hopeless, right? I mean, I don't see any possibility that we can get the Democratic Party to change. Look at the progressives that we got in, who went in. I love every time we bring up the rhetoric that the squad used when they were campaigning. Yeah. They were talking about the things we talk about, and then poof, they get in office. I mean, do you think AOC would run into Nancy Pelosi's office with Sunshine or with Sunrise Movement anymore? Of course not. Of course not. As soon as they get in, they lose their steam and they care more about getting reelected and less about doing what they promised to do, So that's where I'm at, and I think you're pretty close with me on that, but I just wanted to voice that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for calling in. Hashtag no war. I'm going to get to the next call.
My name's Chris too. I just no war is more important than the proper noun I go by.
Yeah, so, you follow Hermela?
Who?
Do you follow Hermela?
I don't think so.
She kind of started that whole hashtag no war.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a Code Pink thing too.
Yeah. She was on the anti-imperialist summit we had last weekend over at RBN.
I haven't caught up on all that. I've been so busy this week, but I've watched some of it so far. I watched Caleb and Jimmy, and I just love all these summits that RBN are doing, and I really support that, and I think it's important. And anyway, thank you for your time tonight, and I'll let you get to the next caller. Thank you,
Awesome.
Sabby.
All right. Reggie, you are now the next caller. You just have to unmute.
Am I unmuted? Hello, how you doing?
Hello.
Nice to call back. Okay, we'll go into the topic of the discussion of the Justice Democrats. Have they failed? Well, it depends on how you look at it. They failed to support the things they said they were going to support and do the things they said they were going to do, but they've done quite well for themselves. They've been subverted, but they're quite happy doing it. They're going to tell us that they're doing this, that we got to go along to get along so that we get something. Of course, they haven't delivered anything, but I don't think they ever planned to deliver anything. You know, I'm a bit older, so I remember way back, I was from the Pacific Northwest, and when Patty Murray got elected, she was part of this new idea called the Tennis Shoe Brigade. She's going to come from the working class, a single mother, and go in there and reform things. And of course, we know where she is. She's essentially, a version of Nancy Pelosi. So I guess they're half successful. They're successful for themselves, just they failed us. Unfortunately, the system, and you referred to this earlier, almost every organization that comes out that say that we need to work from within the Democratic Party, every one of them are designed to funnel you back in and having you toe the line, going down the crazy train track. At one time they used to mean things, or they said they did, even though that got changed with the neoliberals came in, where they were looking out for working class ideals and try to pro-union and try to get people better wages, better things, and protect you from the big boss man, the corporate Democrat, or I should say the corporations. But now, of course, they're the same thing. They're doing the same thing. So, it's come to where we just have two parties, and they key on identity politics without really even caring that much. I feel this is probably the end of any movement or anybody who believes in the Democrat Party as far as doing anything for the workers. I think it's a great idea as to form our own party, but it'd probably be better to go on the Green Party. It could be taken over. I mean, us people who actually believe in progressive plans and ideals, we should get mad. We should, take power and do things. And part of this is we need to try to exclude in our conversation any identity politics and focus on issues that help us all, which would be, of course, education, upper game, higher wages for all of us, because money equals power, opportunity. Somebody earlier mentioned one of the areas of having a lot more technical training, because we do need a lot of technicians. We don't need a lot of, to go in and get a college education right now, and a lot of the people that are in power, either got it for free or never had to pay for it. Right now, you go into debt, $200,000, $300,000 easily, and you can't get away from it. They've enacted special laws, so you can't go bankrupt. You can end up paying that the rest of your life. And it's essentially, I think it's designed to funnel the young people into be, enslaved in paying back, where they're stuck. And they have to pay, and they have to pay. The vast majority of them jobs, they don't lead to, unless you go down medical or law, or the other quick way of getting rich is go into politics and tell people you're going to be a Justice Democrat, get them to believe in you, and then sell them out. But for pretty much everybody else, even in the engineering or, over half the degrees that if you're lucky and you get them, or you work hard and you get them, won't pay you enough to be in, where you could even buy a home. So, that's kind of a dead end situation for the most part. And then you're saddled with debts that you'll be paying the rest of your life. So that's really what we need to do is we need to have free education. We need upper game. We also need, as a country, we need to do the medical care. We need higher wages. I mean, realistically, if you had to live, unless you're in some place in the middle of the heartland and have some connections at $15 an hour, you can't even live on $15 an hour. So, and now they're telling you that they tell you, oh, that's way too much. People will get lazy. It would be really interesting to force them to live a month on $15 an hour and clock in and clock out and see just exactly how well they live. Even if you, that would be really interesting to see how they were able to do that. Now, one of the other things, and this is one of the things I think is going to be the big turning point on the destruction of the Democratic Party, and this is Roe versus Wade thing. We knew it was coming.
Yep.
Barack Obama purposely did not replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg when she had already had pancreatic cancer, which people don't live through. Also, there was another justice, and they didn't replace him on purpose to try to force people to vote for Hillary. And and Hillary's so disliked, and for good reason, that it was a big surprise she didn't get a vote. Well, they didn't get voted for. They had a number of opportunities to actually put justice in there. And they purposely didn't because they wanted it as a bludgeon. So they could, they've made millions and millions and millions of dollars on saying, well, you got to fight for Roe versus Wade. Well, they could do it even right now if they wanted to, but they don't. They want it, I think it was purposely leaked to give them a little bit of traction so they won't lose as many seats. Even though I think many of the voters I don't think almost anybody believes in it. Anything that they promises, they never had it. They had all three. They have all three right now. We don't have a $15 minimum wage. We don't have cheaper drugs or prescriptions. Big Pharma does whatever they want. The people that used to claim to be, well, it's my body, my decision, they're pro-mandate. They want to make everybody keep on getting not only vaccinations, but boosters, and they want to ignore reality like natural immunity. There are ways that they can test it, and they talk about the big problem. Here we are 2.5 years later, and there's no interest in finding the origin of COVID. And we almost all know what the origin was, kind of like we kind of know about Epstein Island. Look at all the things that, and Epstein killing himself. Obviously he did, so we get this over and over again. And the lies are just getting so more blatant and obvious. Now they want a ministry of truth. They want a ministry of truth. That's the biggest joke from the people who, it's not a ministry, okay, or misinformation. It's because they want to control the misinformation. It's the sky is falling, is what they're saying, because we can't control the dialogue. And it's mostly because there's a lot of people doing just what we're doing right now where we don't believe them. Almost nobody believes hardly anything that you hear unless you want to. That was another thing that was being sold to us, that if it used to be that it was very easy for somebody to put something out on the internet and you could collect it and you could find out. And so you could dig up information, and you still can, but if you flood it with all kinds of lies and bullshit, I mean, that's how you do it. You hide that little kernel of truth with so much crap, and then you feed into the idea, well, you can pick your own truth. Pick the one you like. It's okay. And so, this is where we're going. So the only way I think to get out of this is to recognize it for what it is. And we need to align on working class progressive issues. And we also need to align to, because now look, it's not just the left progressive, it's the right. And you call them right, and that might be socially. You got a lot of people in the heartland. They work hard day in and day out. They might even be, anti-abortion. They might be a number of other things. They go to church, and they might have a number of thoughts. We should avoid the issues that separate us and focus on the fact that we need to be able to make a living wage. We need to make our country better. We need to not have corrupt politicians. I mean, that's another obvious thing. Look at that's a perfect example of the squad. They're all subverted with money. They've made it to a point now that it's really obvious. It's all about money. They don't care about what we want. So if we would line up on issues and take over the Green Party, try to stay away. Don't hit that third rail of getting into these identity politics. Identity politics exclude everybody except the identity, and it tends to, it throws blood into the water with piranha.
Yeah,
Don't go
Reggie,
that.
I
That's
do
what
want to.
they're doing. Okay,
Right.
sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's just I do have I need to stop at 11:30. I have a hard stop, but
All
I
right.
do want to get to all the other callers. But I totally hear what
Sure.
you're saying.
Well, the idea is to don't get really angry about this. We just need to organize. I think it's a great idea. We ought to take over the Green Party because there's nobody really running it anyhow. Because that's our future, and just recognize our failure with trying to do anything with the Democratic Party, and go forward. Don't lose our ambition, and don't get to be too hardened and too ideological. Let's start going towards the things that's good for all of us. I mean, because the vast majority, that's 90% of us, can do better, instead of feeding on the ones that are just certain, special groups. Okay, so I'm out of here, at least on that. Right.
Awesome.
Bye.
Well said. Thanks so much. I'm going to take the next caller, and that's MJ. So because of time, guys, I'm going to ask if we can just keep it to like 3 minutes per caller. MJ, you're on the mic.
Hey, how's it? Happy Friday, Sabby.
Hello.
Hey, so yeah, about the Justice Democrats. I mean, in general, I don't have much faith in any of the elected officials. They needed to force the vote, back when it was called for, back when Jimmy called for it. I think that's what should have happened. Just like really quick, just like 2 nights ago, I made my own party. It might sound crazy, but I made a party called the American Anti-Imperialist Party. I made a Twitter for it and stuff, and there's like a basic mission statement for it. But the point is it's like anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist is the main thing. I have the main things that we want to do. But the point is with the system, I think obviously the system is not working for us, and I think it's definitely meant to not work for us when we're not engaged. And I think that's a huge point, because I think there's a huge section of our citizens that are either apolitical, they've checked out of the system, or they're still stuck in the red-blue duopoly. They're still stuck on fighting for Team Red or Team Blue. So I think so now the key is education. So I think that, obviously we need reforms in our system, but I think before we can get to that point, we need to get a larger percentage of our citizens educated to be engaged in the system, be engaged with their communities, be more informed on these issues, get back to their local politics, as well as global issues, but we need more people engaged. So I think education along class lines, it's the 99.9% versus the 0.1% right now. That's why, I'm so over these parties. I made my own little third party and trying to spread an anti-imperialist message. And so then, back to my point about education, sorry, a little bit of tangents, but I think the main thing is education. If we educate our citizens, let them know what's really going on, the system's working against us, so we have to organize and work together. And there's a huge section of apolitical people, like I mentioned. So how do we get those people engaged? How do we educate them? Because unfortunately, with American culture, there's a lot of people that are individualistic. They don't really have much empathy. They're kind of greedy. So how do we make a social switch? And how do we get people more engaged and working together? And then once we're working together and we beat the man, then we can complain and argue about what our favorite football team is, I think. Anyways, those are my thoughts. Thank you so much for the call. And we just got to break out of this two-system duopoly, the two-party duopoly, work together. So those are my thoughts. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, MJ. I'm going to go to the next caller. I agree. We do have to educate people first, you guys. And that's one of the things, when people criticized us and they were like, why are you guys doing a general strike summit? That's not actual organizing, or you guys don't know we're not ready for that. Do you think that before there was a civil rights movement, do you think that those activists didn't have meetings and didn't have sit-in sessions where they talked about what they were going to do and they educated the community first about what can be done and how they can move forward? You have to educate people first. And I'm saying that as someone who was an educator. You have to teach so that people know what's needed and then they can get out and get started. I'm going to go ahead and go to Val. You're next. All right, Val, you're on the mic. You just got to unmute. I got 3 minutes, Val.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, sorry.
I can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. I'm just getting used to this thing. I'm not that great with technology. I'm one of the older members here, probably.
I think you're breaking up a
I'm
little
going to say
bit.
something. I'm going to say something that I don't think too many people will agree with at first, but hear me out. I think the Justice Democrats has been an amazing success. Amazing. What I mean by that is, as soon as it was established, I did not think there was anything going on there that was going to be helpful for the progressive movement. I actually thought with Bernie having the, what was his Our Revolution group, and there was the brand new Congress, and then all of a sudden Justice Democrats, it seemed like all these competing groups were going to back candidates that fractured. That's where fracturing of the left started, and I really think that it was designed that way. I really do believe that the mission of Justice Democrats was to fracture a movement into different parts. Some of the candidates, definitely AOC, were stealth candidates that were fielded to be looking and sounding like they were progressives, but they'd already been vetted by the establishment. Once they get in, they all turn. And the people who, started the whole Justice Democrats movement, where have they been for the past year? I mean, they've lost a lot of their following, their audience, because clearly they've been making excuses for these people. I mean, you can say it's because they're ashamed that they didn't do what they said they were going to do, but I actually think that they have done what they were supposed to do. Just get in there and flop and just take all the air out of the progressive movement. I mean, once Bernie Sanders walked away from his own movement, everybody had a green light to just be in it for themselves. And, but that's what I think.
Oh, Val, thank you so much. You were breaking up a little bit, but I heard you. I'm going to go ahead to the next caller, and that is, I'm jumping around here because some of you have gone already. Nay, I think we're going to try to get you on this time, Nay. Just got to hit unmute. All right. I can.
Can you hear me? Okay. Hey, I do think they failed so much so that I didn't even waste my time going out to vote for Nina Turner. Like she said, they're all friends, so I feel like they're all going to do nothing together. I don't think it would have made a difference getting her in. I did prefer her over Chantel Brown, but I just, I gave up at this point. However, I do think maybe I could speak to the difference as to why the gap was so big this time. Last year, I didn't really see any ads unless I was jogging, out in the neighborhood last year. In my neighborhood, Cleveland Heights, one of those neighborhoods that does have a larger Jewish population. I saw a lot of Nina Turner signs. Some were Chantel Brown, but mostly Nina Turner or other candidates. And I didn't really see any TV ads last year, unless I was, maybe hanging out with my mom and watching like network or cable television or something. And it was pretty equal between all the candidates, including Chantel Brown. It seemed pretty standard. No one stood out. However, this year, that money that they put into Chantel Brown's campaign was insane. I mean, they hit different platforms this time. So they hit like YouTube hard, they hit Hulu, all the apps that people actually watch. It was relentless. It was like nonstop. Every single ad that I had was Chantel Brown, and I just feel like maybe they reached a larger audience this time. So anybody who was undecided, anybody who was going based on name recognition, probably did vote for her because it was, I mean, it was insane. I've never seen anything like that before. So it almost felt like they were cutting into like my shows on Hulu early just to show me her ads. So I think maybe that's why the gap was so big. She did run, Nina Turner did run one ad that I thought was, you know, pretty feisty. It was on the radio though, so not many people listen to the radio. I'm sure, you know, not many people heard that, but it was just kind of mentioning her Chantel Brown's ethic investigation and the fact that, you know, all the money, like the ad she's running, she's claiming that she brought all this money to Cleveland. Didn't really do that. The ad just kind of mentioned that it was Sherrod Brown, not Chantel Brown. But like I said, I think just the name recognition, the presence that Chantel Brown had is the reason why the gap was so big this time around. But thank you for
Nay,
your
can I
time.
can
Have
I
a good night.
ask you really quick? What
Sure.
happened to the people who voted for her last year that didn't vote for her this year? Like people who were
I'm
already her supporters.
I think I don't know, people are just tired of that whole, you know, I mean it's pretty obvious that people use that progressive term because they know the ideas are popular but they don't plan to act on it. You know, I think maybe that's it. I'm not quite sure, but I think everybody's pretty frustrated with everything that Democrats and progressives don't do. I actually, me personally, I feel like they're too aligned with Democrats. Like Bernie said, he'll run if Joe Biden doesn't run. Why would that be the case unless you guys are? I don't know. I just think that's strange. They're just too in line with the Democrats to me. They haven't stood out. They haven't made a difference. So what's the point? You know, we need a third party, and I think that's just kind of what everybody's waiting for.
Someone is asking in the chat, can you answer really quick? How was the
Sure.
ground game for Nina Turner's
Nina's was
campaign?
good. It was good. And the thing is, like, there was almost like a flyer on my door every single day.
That's
But
good.
the kind of flyers that they put out, I thought, you know, like that feistiness that she had with that radio ad, she could have used that for the flyer if they didn't have much money. It should have maybe had a snapshot of the Plain Dealer breaking that story about her ethics investigation. The Plain Dealer is our local newspaper. So actually, they ran the story on the ethics investigation. In addition to that, they also held the debate this year between Nina and Chantel, where Chantel flat out lied about having an ethics investigation. And I thought that was a lot of ammo for Nina. She could have used that. She could have been like, hey, you know, she's lying, but here's the evidence. She's under investigation. And that didn't really happen. So I thought, you know, while there were flyers on the door every day, it didn't really say what she was going to do for the city. I mean, Chantel was saying what she would do. Obviously, it's not stuff that she actually did, but it was just kind of like a cute little picture, hey, vote for me. So it was maybe just a lack of money why her campaign wasn't strong enough. I'm not sure. But her ground game was good. There were always flyers out every day, but didn't really hit hard enough.
Thank you so much, Nay. It's good to hear from someone in that district. This is what I was saying, you guys. Like, the money is the problem. Like, this is always going to be an issue until you get the money, until we get money out of politics and we have public elections. Thanks so much for calling, Nay. I'm going to go to the next caller.
Have a good night.
You too. All right, guys. I'm going to go to Eric. All right, Eric, you're on the mic. I have 3 minutes, Eric.
All right, here we go, Sabby. Number one, they definitely did fail. Number two, what can we take? Lessons learned for us, the leftists, the ones who actually want to do something. What do we take away from AOC, the squad, and how they got to get their seats? We have to do the same thing that they've done. We have to put together a strategy, a message, strong candidates that are charismatic, that could get in front of people. The gig is up. If we just take the opportunity right now to invest, to find the next Shama Sawants. And of course, you know, we can't forget about the fact that we only want to put 20% of our energy and money into electoral votes and the 80% into direct action. Still, we need to figure out a way to bring about some good candidates. So what do we learn and what do we take away is my message. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. That was awesome. Well said. I'm going to go to the next caller, and that is Will. You are on the mic.
Hey, Sabs.
Hello.
Hey, Sabs. I'm gonna be quick. I just came with some suggestions. I don't even want to comment on the squad. I think I talked to you enough so you know where I come from with them. Uh, Suggestions. I think we need to probably bring together like some historians so far as in people that's like similarly minded, but historians that follow like the civil rights movement and seen exactly what was their mechanisms of reaching out and getting the word out. Because we got the internet and we got social platforms, and for some reason those people ain't have those platforms, and they got the word out. Almost, it seemed like it was strong. It was way stronger than ours.
I
And
agree. I agree.
like that seemed crazy to me, to be honest. But then I look at the church and I look at the breakdown of the church, and I'm like, maybe it was the church because a lot of people believe that we was a little bit more religious, like a lot more religious, and everybody went to church, so therefore everybody got a message because our the messages in the church was somewhat political, so that could be a reason. Uh, and maybe we should start protesting and doing some type of marches at news stations because we got to start putting pressure on those anchors and stuff like that to start getting real stories and stuff like that. And that could probably be another thing because if YouTube start booting people and stuff like that, and we can't really use alternate media, we're going to have to start putting the pressure on them to actually be honest. So, and it might have to be a million people showing up to a news station every couple of months, and just like we did Million Man marches, march on the press, and we can call it that, the march on the press. So I don't know, or press the press. I don't know, but we gotta do something that's that's uh, that's putting pressure on people to be megaphones. Because at the end of the day, we all kind of saying the same thing, but we in these we got different megaphones because we got different leaders. So our leaders skew our words and use it for their benefit. Because I'm pretty sure those iron workers and those coal miners say the same thing that we say, but their leader will throw in, yeah, the coal miners they want this and this and that, but the billionaires deserve new tax breaks too. So they are throwing their own little corporate incentive into the message and really forget the message of the people and just try to get their whatever their incentive is, but use the people's message to get that. So I don't know, but that's just my suggestion.
Very good points, Will. Thank you so much for calling in. I'm going to get to the next caller. Yeah, guys, that's a really good point. In fact, a lot of those, well, maybe not a lot, but some of those civil rights activists that march with Dr. King, they're still alive today. I think I'm gonna look into that to see if I can find a way to get in touch with some of them. Now, some people, that was activists back then, they went kind of neoliberal later on in the 80s and 90s, and they're not really about that life anymore. But I'm pretty sure there's some of them that are still have that mindset, and I'm pretty sure it's just finding the ones that are willing to come on and talk about it. Because yeah, like Will is right. Like they didn't have internet, no social media, no Twitter, and they were able to organize thousands and thousands of people. So yes, that's an awesome idea. Next caller I'm going to take is Case Study QB. You're on the
Hey, what's
chat.
going on, Sabby Sabs? Much love to you. Much love to the chat. I see my boy Days in the chat. Much love to you. Yeah, so this is a very interesting conversation. Of course, I love talking about these kind of conversations, and this is my opinion. I talked to man, I was just about to look up his name on Twitter, but one of the guys that was with Justice Democrats really early, if I could come across his name, I'll say it. But he's like, I think he's currently like the press secretary for them officially, and he told me how they started off, and right when before AOC's win, like Justice Democrat was just about to fall off. Like everything that they did was not working. They endorsed a whole bunch of, if everybody remember, it was kind of a branch off of brand new Congress, and they had a whole bunch of candidates, and it wasn't going nowhere. They wasn't raising enough money. That's why their last ditch attempt, which worked, was to ditch all the candidates and put all their eggs in one basket, which was AOC, and she won, and that catapulted Justice Democrats to the notoriety that they have right now. But I think, unfortunately, from the time that they kicked Cenk off of the director board, that was the first sign of weakness, because somebody, I forgot who it was, some right winger said that Cenk did something in 15 years ago, whatever. And me personally, somebody shouldn't be necessarily judged on something that happened 50, 20 years. Yeah, you can consider it like, okay, we knew what type of person he was then, but I'd rather judge somebody on something that they did the last 5 years, me personally. So for them as an organization to say, oh, you got this controversy, and a lot of candidates actually supported Cenk, and they just, the women, including the current president, or executive director, man, what was her name? I can't, her name escapes me, but she was definitely one of the people that were like, oh, we got to kick Cenk off of the directorship. And of course, Kyle Kalinske, out of principle, he left after they kicked Cenk off. So from then on, that personally to me showed me that they were not ready to fight the establishment, fight the good fight, and unfortunately, we can see that to this point. But what you think about? I don't want to talk. I got a couple more things to say, but what do you think about that so far?
I mean, that all makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me that out of all the people that were running, they chose AOC though. Like out of all the people that were running.
So,
So
from what I understand, and I talked to that guy out here. His name is Waleed Shahid, right? I talked to him personally in person, and he said that and actually, I talked to him about that, but I think Charles Chakrabarti, he said that her district was uniquely fit to be able to put the resources in, and for her to hit the streets, which she did, to her credit. Her shoes literally were worn down, and I think it's in the Smithsonian Museum now, that she wore down her shoes because she knocked on so many doors, and it was unique in the sense that she can knock on that many doors that allowed her to reach enough people personally to have them therefore vote for her. Versus a district that's too big that you can't literally, the candidate themselves can't knock on every door. So I think that was the reason.
interesting.
One last thing before I'll let you go. I just want to say that I think progressives, we need to think differently. We can't use the same playbook that the establishment uses. So, and I'm throwing out ideas. I don't know what will work, but being introduced to you, Sabby, being introduced to Revolutionary Blackout Network, I think we have to find a way to mirror or marry mutual aid and electoral politics. At least the people who are running as for office. You need to, instead of just knocking on doors and saying, "Hey, I'm running for office, vote for me." You need to have your volunteers. You need to knock on doors and say, "Hi, I'm running for office. How can I help you right now? What do you need immediately that I can help you out? I can't mow your lawn every Sunday, but I can at least mow your lawn, have my team or somebody I'll have a mutual aid part of my electoral team, or a part of my infrastructure of people who would go out there and say, hey, we see that you need help. If you're an old person living alone and you've been meaning to get this couch out, hey, we can help you with that. We can mow your lawn. At least we can't do it every Sunday, but we could do it once a month or once every so often. Or maybe we can hook you up with a neighbor who would get to know you and they can help you out. That's a way that we need to approach things, and also do it way earlier than what the traditional establishment, where they might run a year earlier. Maybe you need to run 2 years earlier and guarantee, say, hey, I'm in this for if I don't win the first time, I guarantee that I'm going to try to run a second time. And then after that, it's up in the air. But we as progressives, we need to give it more time, because we're not going to be able to raise as much, especially with the way we're being disenfranchised. I feel disenfranchised by what's going on. I don't want to really donate that much money. So money is not, you're not going to be able to raise money and compete with TV ads. But if we knock on enough doors and build that infrastructure, at least you will be able to pass it on to the next person who might be progressive running also. That's another thing. Anyway, I talked enough. I give the mic back to you, buddy.
No, that's a good point. You mean, in other words, Case, you mean have them actually work for their vote?
Yeah, what a novel idea. Absolutely. And one thing, working with the People's Gauntlet, I've realized that there's a lot of candidates that literally just expect you to, they come and say, hey Sabs, I'm a progressive, I want your vote. And that's it. They expect you to say, therefore, volunteer your time, give your money, and knock on the doors and do all the work. That's it. They don't, you go to people's website, they don't even have issues page. Like I love or I don't, I want to say I love, but Charles Booker, right? When he first ran, he was the progressives in Kentucky, and I love the fervor, the from the hood to the holler kind of the message, right? I went to his page recently. I don't see a healthy issues page. I don't think I saw an issues page. Correct me if I'm wrong. If somebody, I'll definitely stand corrected. But I didn't see an issues page. Come on, we can't be doing that.
He went
Go
to
ahead.
the dark side, Case. He not running the same campaign. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he,
know.
he got endorsed. I think what's his name is Chuck Schumer supporting him, so that's a bad sign. Anybody that gets supported by the progressive caucus now has a side eye from me. Unfortunately, with how they treated Nina, so we're in some tough times. But I'm always optimistic that we just need to figure out what's the best way. We need to organize. That's why I love having jumping on these call-ins with all my favorite left leaders and talking to you. This is what's needed. Me, you, the audience, having these conversations and coming up with solutions. And even if that solution doesn't work, we come back together and think of something new again. And then if it doesn't work, we come back together, think of something new again. And back to the original topic, Justice Democrats. Yeah, they tried something. I think they slowly got co-opted to this point where they're at. I think they're definitely co-opted, and we as the progressive grassroots, we have to come up with something new.
Well said, Case. Well said.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Much love to you. Much love to the chat. Have a good one.
You too. Thanks. Yeah. I'm sorry. I know I have two people, guys. I'm actually past my time. I need to stop at 11:30. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to prevent people from calling in after a certain point. I guess I should reach out to call in and ask them that. Like, how do I prevent that? I'm so sorry. But Lance, I know you already spoke, but I know I'll hear from you again. But I just want to say before I end this call is that I want you guys to kind of look at these discussions as brainstorming sessions when we have these conversations. Like, so many of you gave a lot of great ideas. Let's write those down. I mean, these episodes are recorded, but like, this is what we need to be doing. This is what civil rights leaders did. All of the people that have fought and brainstormed, they had brainstorming sessions to figure out, how are we going to do this? How are we going to get this done? So I really do appreciate these discussions, you guys. I really appreciate it. I am well past my time. It is 11:37. I just looked at this. Eric's in the background. He's probably like, when is this going to end? So I do want to go ahead and end the segment on Call-In, and then I'll end it on YouTube. So guys, thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight on Call-In. I really appreciate it. Loved hearing for you. I'll be back. So have a good weekend. All right, so I just ended the room on Call-In, and I think I do have a Rockfin tip here. Thank you for the tip, Michael Hosteller. And thank you for the tip, Roger Meadows. That brother hit it on the money when he said the Black political elite is against us on the economic issues. Denzel, Black women's favorite leading man from the 80s to the 90s, talked down on BLM as he told a story of how he rode with cops and seen how they handled an irate Black man with care. Fool, they knew you were in the car. They didn't want bad press. Take care how you speak to us. Cosby talked down to us. Now look at him. I am hearing people tonight make my case for ballot initiatives and abolish all political parties. Sab, I'm going to work on you like I did Kit to get you to follow mutual aid, direct action, general strike, and vote third party with encouraging and implanting in your viewer's brain, vote for BIs. I kept hearing despair in people tonight. What do we do? What do we do? I am like Sabby. Tell them to start ballot initiatives to get what we want. And thank you for this as well. Would have loved if you asked Nay if she knows that Ohio is a BI state. She may not know she can pass Ohio laws and add amendments to Ohio Constitution. This is what no one tonight jumped on. The ground game got to be in the states. 8 states passed weed legalization via ballot initiatives before non-BI states started doing it. That's the key. That is true. Good points. Good points. And someone sent this. Solidar Nosk says RBN should do a force the vote style campaign of democratizing. Sorry, guys, it's late. Democratizing the Green Party, a party for the people, not the plutocrats. Your audience is ready. America is waiting. Your chance to grow is now. That is a really good idea. Someone should clip that. RBN should do a force the vote style campaign of democratizing the Green Party, a party for the people, not the plutocrats. I'll talk to them about that. Thank you so much. Thanks for that. All right, guys, I am a little tired. I've been up since 6 o'clock this morning, so it's been a long day. But thank you. Like, some of you rode with me the whole way. I think I've been live for almost 4 hours now. I gotta go. All right, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in, and please have a good weekend. I'll be back on Monday. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.